Hi folks, I've been asked quite a few times recently to do a compilation video on my Mandela Effect and glitched reality videos, so here it is. And I did 3 Mandela Effect videos. Let's start with the very first one that looks at whether there's any proof we're living in a glitched reality. And if you stick around to the end, I've got a bonus piece of content for you if you're interested in finding out a bit more about my channel. Imagine waking up and realizing that your memories don't match reality. Not in a where did I put my keys kind of way, but in a fundamental reality shifting kind of way. You remember Nelson Mandela dying in the 1980s, but he actually passed away in 2013. You swear that Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father," but he never did. You distinctly recall the Monopoly man having a monocle, yet he's never worn one. And perhaps the biggest, most unsettling example of all, the Berenstain Bears, the beloved children's book series, never existed. Instead, it's always been spelled Berenstain Bears. At least that's what they want you to believe. What if this isn't just a case of faulty memory? What if we're experiencing glitches in the fabric of reality? Could this be proof that parallel universes exist? Did we shift timelines? Was history altered? Or is our entire reality one giant buggy simulation? Welcome to the Mandela Effect, the mind-bending mystery that challenges everything you think you know about reality. Okay, wow, now this one is going to break your brain, so let's dive in. What is the Mandela Effect? The Mandela Effect is a phenomenon where large groups of people share the same false memory, remembering an event, a name, or a historical fact differently than how it actually exists. The term was coined by Fiona Broome, a paranormal researcher who realized that she, along with thousands of others, distinctly remembered Nelson Mandela dying in a South African prison in the 1980s. She even recalled news coverage, the funeral, and world leaders giving speeches about his death, except that never happened. Mandela was released from prison in 1990 and later became South Africa's president. He lived until 2013. But Fiona wasn't alone. As she shared her story, hundreds of others came forward with the same memory, and then the floodgates opened. People started noticing other strange discrepancies between their memories and reality. Luke, I am your father, which was actually No, I am your father in Star Wars. The Monopoly man wearing a monocle, which in reality he never did. Mirror, mirror on the wall, which has always been Magic Mirror on the Wall in Snow White. The Fruit of the Loom logo, which people swear had a cornucopia, but never actually did. The more people investigated, the more they found. So, let me get this straight. Either millions of us are terrible at remembering basic facts, or we're casually hopping between alternate dimensions like it's no big deal. I don't know about you, but if I'm in the wrong timeline, I at least hope my alternate self is taller and better at math. The role of the internet and mass media in the Mandela Effect. Okay, so maybe you're still not convinced that we're jumping between alternate dimensions or living in a glitchy simulation. Fair enough. But there's one thing we can't ignore. The internet and mass media fueling false memories like throwing gasoline on a fire. How the internet supercharged the Mandela Effect. Back in the day, if you misremembered something, you had 3 options. Look it up in a book, which, let's be honest, most of us weren't doing. Ask someone else, who might also be misremembering it. Except that maybe you just forgot and move on. But now, we have millions of people online, all comparing notes, reinforcing each other's false memories, and turning tiny misconceptions into mass hysteria. A single viral tweet can convince thousands of people that they've always remembered something a certain way. A badly photoshopped meme can spread a fake historical fact like wildfire. A Reddit thread saying, "Wait, was it always spelled like this?" can spark a full-blown Mandela Effect rabbit hole in a matter of hours. And once enough people believe something, it gets locked into collective memory. Mass media's role in changing our perception. The news, Hollywood, and even advertisements contribute to the Mandela Effect. For example, misquoted movie lines. If a parody show misquotes a famous line, people start remembering the parody version instead of the original. Looking at you, Star Wars fans. Logos and branding changes. Companies quietly tweak their logos over the years, but our brains assume they've always looked the way we first saw them. Rewriting history. The media sometimes reframes historical events, and over time, public perception shifts. Take Looney Tunes versus Looney Tunes. Many people swear it was Toons, short for cartoons, but it has always been Tunes. Why? Because the word Toons became more common after the creation of the show. So our brains rebranded history retroactively. And here's the scary part. If mass media can accidentally create Mandela effects, could it also deliberately manipulate them? That brings us to the next big question. Oh, fantastic. So now, not only do we have to worry about alternate dimensions, but we also have to worry about some guy on Reddit going, wait a minute, wasn't the Statue of Liberty on Ellis Island? And now half the internet believes it's moved. Right, honestly, at this point, I'm just going to assume every memory I have is a group project that the internet helped me fail. Now we get the mother of all Mandela effects, the Berenstain Bears. The Berenstain Bears paradox. If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you probably remember reading about Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Brother Bear, and Sister Bear in a book series called The Berenstain Bears. Except it's never been Berenstain. It's always been spelled Berenstain with an A. This revelation broke the internet. Thousands of people, many of whom had childhood books, VHS tapes, and merchandise, swore it was spelled Berenstain. Yet, when they checked the old books, websites, and official records, every single source confirmed that it has always been Berenstain. It was as if reality itself had been rewritten. Some people even found old books with the Berenstain spelling, but skeptics dismissed these as rare misprints or altered images. The question remains, did we all just misremember it, or did something much weirder happen? Look, I can accept that I might have remembered a few things wrong. And maybe Darth Vader never said, "Luke, I am your father." Maybe Pikachu never had a black-tipped tail. But now you're telling me that millions of us hallucinated the same extra E in Berenstain Bears? That's it. I'm calling my childhood librarian. Somebody has to answer for this. Psychological explanations. Before we go full conspiracy mode, let's look at the scientific explanations behind the Mandela effect. False memory and the brain's autocorrect feature. Our brains like to fill gaps and correct information based on past knowledge. The "stein" suffix is common. Einstein, Frankenstein. So our minds auto-corrected Berenstain to Berenstain. The misinformation effect. When people hear a false fact enough times, they start believing it. This is why fake news spreads so easily. Once an idea gets planted, it feels real. Confabulation. Our brains merge similar memories over time. If we learn Berenstain as kids, our adult brains may have filled in the blanks incorrectly. Seems logical, right? Except, what if science isn't telling us the full story? So, according to science, our brains are basically just misfiring hard drives that occasionally insert typos into our memories. Yeah, okay, sure. But riddle me this, why are we all making the same typo? Now, that's like everyone in the world remembering Shrek as a crime thriller instead of a green ogre's self-esteem journey. What if the Mandela effect is a psyop? Okay, time for the real tinfoil hat stuff. What if the Mandela effect isn't just a weird memory glitch or side effect of mass media? What if it's deliberate? Some theorists believe that the Mandela effect is actually a psyop, a psychological operation designed to test how easily public perception can be manipulated. And let's be real, if that were true, it's working. Theory 1. Psychological warfare and memory manipulation. Governments and intelligence agencies have been experimenting with psychological manipulation for decades. The CIA's MKUltra program in the 1950s and 70s was all about mind control, memory alteration, and psychological conditioning. The Operation Mockingbird project involved the CIA using outlets to spread propaganda and control narratives. More recently, social media platforms have been used to manipulate opinions on a global scale. So, is it really that crazy to think someone could be deliberately testing how easy it is to alter our collective memory? Think about it. If you can convince people they've always remembered something wrong, you can make them doubt their perception of reality. And once people start questioning their own memory, they become easier to influence. A population that can't trust its own memory is a population that is easier to control. Yes, classic government experiments, because MKUltra and propaganda programs weren't enough. Now they might be running a nationwide gaslighting campaign just to see if they can make us forget how to spell Berenstain. Great, just great. But seriously, if this theory was true, it means that reality itself is now open for revision. And first they mess with our childhood memories, then a perception of history. What's next? One day you wake up and suddenly pizza was never a thing. I'm just saying, if this is psychological warfare, then at least they could do is replace my mortgage debt with a false memory. Go ahead, gaslight me into thinking I already paid it off. I won't complain. Theory 2. Data collection and human response testing. Another theory suggests that the Mandela effect could be an experiment in human psychology and mass suggestion. Let's say a government, corporation, or even an AI wanted to test how people react when their memories don't match reality. What better way to do that than by subtly changing small details in history, watching how people respond online, and measuring how quickly false memories spread? Now, could the Mandela effect be a way to test and refine methods of influencing public opinion? If so, who's running the experiment? And, more importantly, what's the end goal? So let me get this straight. Someone, maybe the government or maybe an AI overlord, is just tweaking reality like it's some kind of giant psychology experiment. And we're all just unpaid test subjects. Cool, totally normal. Nothing dystopian about that. And honestly, if they're tracking our responses, I hope they're enjoying the absolute meltdown that happens every time someone finds out that Darth Vader never said, "Luke, I am your father." I can imagine some shadowy scientist analysing the data. Ah yes, subject 782394 is experiencing extreme emotional distress over the Fruit of the Loom logo. Fascinating. Look, if this is all just a test, I have one message for whoever's running it. Please stop messing with the movie quotes and start manipulating gas prices instead. That's an alternate reality I do want to live in. The fringe theories. What if reality is glitching? Okay, so let's say you're not buying into the "it's just bad memory" explanation. You don't think millions of people all just happen to misremember the same details in the exact same way. What if the reason we remember things differently is because reality itself has changed? Some theorists believe that the Mandela Effect isn't just a case of false memory, it's actual proof that something strange is happening to our reality. And there are three major theories that attempt to explain it. Theory 1. Parallel universes. Did we shift timelines? What if there isn't just one version of reality? What if there are infinite alternate universes, each slightly different, and at some point we somehow slipped from one into another? The idea of parallel universes comes from quantum physics. According to the many worlds interpretation, every time a choice is made, big or small, a new reality branches off. In one universe, Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s, and Berenstain Bears was the correct spelling. In another, he lived until 2013, and it's always been Berenstain Bears. In another universe, maybe you never clicked on this video and instead joined a traveling circus. Think of it like flipping through TV channels. Each channel is a different version of reality, and for some unknown reason, we accidentally switch channels. But we still remember details from our old reality. Some say this shift could have happened due to a large-scale cosmic event, like a CERN experiment affecting space-time. Others believe it could be natural, an effect we just don't fully understand yet. Either way, this theory suggests that the reason we all remember the same wrong details is that at one point they were right, just in another universe. Alright, so if I'm getting this right, somewhere out there in the Berenstain universe, there's another me, sitting in another version of this reality, also freaking out about how his childhood books suddenly say Berenstain, and now he thinks he's in the wrong timeline. At this point, I just want to know who's in charge of the timeline switches. Is there some guy at CERN with a giant multiverse remote just mashing buttons? And if so, do stop messing with our childhood memories. At least do something useful like bring back Crystal Pepsi. Theory 2. Simulation theory. Are we in a glitchy video game? Now, here's where things get really weird. Some believe that reality isn't real at all. Instead, we're living in a simulation, a highly advanced computer program, like the Matrix, running on a super powerful system. Under this theory, the Mandela Effect isn't just a memory issue, it's a glitch in the system. Think about it. Video games render only what's in front of you, filling in details as you move around. Occasionally, there are bugs. Objects disappear, textures load incorrectly, or past events are rewritten by developers. What if our reality works the same way? Maybe the Berenstain Bears existed in an earlier version of the simulation, but when an update rolled out, the spelling was changed to Berenstain, and some of us still remember the old code. This theory has some big supporters, including Elon Musk, who famously said there's a high probability we're living in a simulation, because the odds of humanity being the only real civilization rather than part of a simulation are slim. Now, some believe the Mandela Effect could be evidence of patches or updates happening in real time. Ever notice how certain logos change, historical events seem different, or old movies have new lines you don't remember? What if those aren't changes in history, but glitches being corrected? Okay, if this is a simulation, I have some serious complaints. Well, first of all, who designed this thing? Because I'd like to request an upgrade, and maybe a cheat code for unlimited money, or look, at the very least, the ability to pause reality and take a nap whenever I want. Now second, if we're in a video game, that means someone is playing us, and that means that somewhere some sweaty dude in another dimension is controlling my every move. Dude, do better. You made me walk into a glass door last week, and that was embarrassing for both of us. Theory 3. Time travel. Was the timeline altered? Now, let's bring in another mind-bending possibility. What if time travelers have been altering history? The idea here is that at some point in the future, someone or something developed time travel technology and made changes to the past. These changes could be minor tweaks, but they have a butterfly effect that ripple forward, altering details in our reality. Maybe someone went back and accidentally changed Berenstein to Berenstain. Maybe Mandela originally died in prison, but an unknown intervention prevented it, shifting our history. Maybe the Monopoly man originally had a monocle, but some small change in the past erased it from history. This would explain why so many of us remember things that no longer exist. We have leftover memories from the old version of reality before the timeline was altered. But here's the real question. Who's changing history? Are these future humans traveling back to perfect history? Is this an experiment gone wrong? Or is something or someone deliberately changing small details in order to see how we react? And if that's true, what else has already changed that we just haven't noticed yet? Well, that one covered the older, more well-known Mandela effects, but we'll get to the more recent ones later on. Okay, next up, we explore simulation theory. Is your reality real, or are we trapped inside an artificial world, just a highly advanced simulation designed to keep us distracted? Scientists, philosophers, and technologists have debated this mind-blowing theory for decades. From Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis to the eerie glitches in reality, we explore the most shocking evidence that we might be living in a fake reality. What if everything you've ever known, your family, your friends, your entire life, wasn't real? What if the world around you was just an illusion, a highly advanced simulation designed to keep you distracted while something or someone else pulls the strings? Sounds like something out of the Matrix, right? Well, some of the greatest scientific minds actually think it's possible. And if that's true, who or what is running the simulation? Now this one blows my mind. Can you imagine if this is all really just a fake reality? I mean, what does that even mean, and does it even matter? Let's find out. The origin of the simulation hypothesis. Where did this idea come from? The idea that we might be living in a fake reality isn't new. In fact, some of the greatest philosophers in history have suggested it before. Let's start with Plato. Over 2,000 years ago, he wrote The Allegory of the Cave, a story about prisoners who lived their whole lives chained inside a cave, watching shadows on a wall. To them, those shadows were reality, but in truth, they were just projections of something greater. Sound familiar? Now let's fast forward to René Descartes, the guy who gave us I think, therefore I am. He suggested that an evil demon, a super intelligent being, could be manipulating all of our senses, tricking us into believing in a false reality. And then there's Nick Bostrom. In 2003, Bostrom wrote a paper that broke the internet, the simulation argument. He said that if a simulation ever got advanced enough to simulate reality, they would. And if just one of those simulations existed, there would be millions. Meaning, the odds that we are in the real base reality are almost zero. So, if philosophers, scientists, and mathematicians all think we're in a simulation, what's the evidence? All right, let's be real. Look, philosophers have loved messing with people's minds for centuries. And Plato basically told us, hey guys, what if life is just shadows on a wall? And everyone just nodded like, damn deep. Then Descartes comes in, oh yeah, what if a demon is controlling your brain? And now modern scientists are just like, actually, it's an alien supercomputer and you're an NPC in a cosmic video game. Fantastic. So, what I'm hearing is nothing is real, we might be Sims, and someone is controlling us with a glitchy AI. Well, great. Let's keep going before I have an existential crisis. The science of simulated reality. Do we have proof? Okay, philosophy is one thing, but what does science say? Well, science says some really weird stuff. Let's start with quantum weirdness. Scientists discovered that tiny particles behave differently when we observe them. When no one is looking, they act like a wave, spread out and undefined. But the second we observe them, they collapse into solid matter, as if the simulation is only rendering what we're watching. Then there's the pixelated universe theory. If our world was truly infinite, then space should be seamless, but it's not. Scientists have found that the universe has a limit, like a video game that can only render so much detail at once. And what about cosmic speed limits? Why does light travel at a fixed speed, 186,000 miles per second, and never faster? And could it be that the universe is programmed that way? And here's the kicker. Some scientists say that the entire universe might be encoded in mathematical structures, almost like lines of code in a giant program. So, if this is a simulation, who programmed it? Okay, so let's get this straight. Now, particles act like they know they're being watched. The universe has a built-in resolution limit, like a TV screen with a max pixel count. And light speed works like a physics engine in a video game. At this point, I'm just waiting for a scientist to say, yeah, if you click through a wall, you can actually see the source code. Honestly, if I find out the cheat code for infinite money, I am using it. Now, before we start glitching out, let's talk about actual glitches in reality. Glitches in the Matrix, evidence we're in a simulation. If we're in a simulated reality, then sometimes the simulation should glitch, right? Well, maybe it already has. Let's start with the Mandela Effect. Millions of people remember things differently than how they are recorded in history. Did the Monopoly Man have a monocle? Nope. Was it Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears? Did Sinbad star in a movie called Shazam? Apparently not, but a lot of people remember it. If memories were just faulty, we should all be making random mistakes. But instead, millions of people are remembering the exact same thing wrong, as if the simulation was edited but the old version left traces behind. Then there's déjà vu. Scientists say it's just a brain hiccup. But what if it's actually a momentary reset in the simulation? What if your consciousness accidentally loops just for a second before continuing? And finally, strange coincidences and impossible events. Have you ever thought about someone and they suddenly text you? Ever seen impossible symmetry in nature, like a face on Mars or identical cloud formations? Ever had something vanish only to reappear in the exact same place you checked 5 times already? If our world was just a program, wouldn't we expect to see bugs, glitches, and memory errors? And if that's the case, who is debugging reality? All right, let's talk about the Mandela Effect. And millions of people remember the same thing wrong, and we're just supposed to shrug it off. That's like your computer randomly deleting files and Microsoft going, yeah, that is normal. And déjà vu? Are you telling me my brain just accidentally replays a moment for no reason? Right. And sometimes NPCs in video games just stand there staring at walls for no reason. Coincidences? Please. I once thought about ordering a pizza and 5 minutes later, my phone got a Domino's ad. If the simulation is glitching, I'd really like the developers to fix some things. Like, can we get some updates for flying cars? But let's keep going, because if the simulation is real, who is running it? Who or what is running the simulation? Okay, let's assume for a moment that we are inside a simulation. That raises the biggest question of all. Who's running it? There are a few possibilities, each more mind-blowing than the last. Theory 1. An advanced AI created us. What if the simulation isn't run by a civilization at all, but by an artificial intelligence? Imagine a hyper-advanced AI created by now extinct species running a simulation of past civilizations to learn what went wrong. Or worse, what if we're just NPCs in an AI's infinite experiment? Theory 2. A future civilization is studying the past. Nick Bostrom's theory suggests that if a civilization ever becomes advanced enough, they will create simulations. But why? Maybe we're just a digital recreation of history, a way for a post-human society to study their ancestors. Think about it. Have you ever felt like history is strangely repetitive? And maybe it's because it keeps happening in different versions of the simulation. Theory 3. Aliens are running the experiment. If we didn't create the simulation, maybe it was created for us. What if aliens, being from a higher dimension, are studying how intelligent life evolves? Or are we just a cosmic petri dish, a galactic science project for some advanced interdimensional race? And here's the scariest thought. What if the simulation has already run before, and we've failed every time? All right, let's break this down. Now, if an AI is running the simulation, that means we're all just NPCs with slightly better graphics, like we're the GTA characters who think they have free will, while some cosmic player is just messing with us for fun. And if future humans are running the simulation, well, great. That means we're basically history homework for some teenager in the year 40,000. But my favorite theory? Aliens, please let it be aliens. Because if that's true, I'd love to know what grade we're getting on this experiment. If Earth is some alien kid's science project, I have a feeling we are barely passing. All right, let's keep going. If this is a simulation, does the universe show signs of being programmed? The artificial universe. Does the cosmos look engineered? If we're in a simulation, there should be clues hidden in the fabric of reality. And there are. First up, mathematical patterns in nature. Why does the universe follow strict laws? The universe isn't random chaos. It follows precise mathematical formulas. From the golden ratio in flowers to the Fibonacci sequence in galaxies, nature behaves suspiciously like a programmed system. Secondly, fractal reality. Everything looks like a scaled copy. Ever noticed how galaxies, hurricanes, neurons, and even river networks all look identical? That's called fractality, a feature often used in computer-generated simulations. Is it coincidence, or is it reality using procedural generation like the video game Terrain engine? And thirdly, cosmic censorship. Are we being blocked from seeing reality? Scientists have noticed that the closer we get to understanding the fabric of the universe, the more reality pushes back. For example, black holes hide what's inside them with an event horizon. The Planck length is the smallest possible unit of measurement, almost like the universe has a resolution limit. Every time we get close to proving something about reality, physics mysteriously stops us from going further. Is that by design? And if so, what are we not supposed to see? Okay, if this is a simulation, then I've got some complaints for the programmers. First off, why do I need sleep? Seriously, if I'm just code, why does my avatar require 8 hours of maintenance per day? Also, why is reality full of repeating patterns? And why does my brain look like a galaxy? Why does the Roman snail shell follow the same math as the Milky Way? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if I zoomed in on a leaf and found it was made of ones and zeros. All right, now here's the real question. If this is a simulation, can we escape? Can we escape the simulation? Is this a prison? Is there a way out? If the simulation is real, is there a way out? Or worse, are we even supposed to leave? Philosophical theories on breaking free. Is self-awareness the key? Some philosophers argue that the moment you realize you're in a simulation, you start breaking its rules. That's why some people claim to have woken up from reality, feeling like everything is scripted. Out-of-body and near-death experiences. Have people briefly exited the simulation? People who have had near-death experiences report seeing the other side, a world beyond this one. Some describe floating above their bodies, watching everything from a different dimension. Could these be temporary escapes from the simulation? The ultimate question, do we even want to escape? Let's say you found a way to leave the simulation. Would you do it? Would you abandon everything and everyone you've ever known? Because if this reality is fake, the real one could be worse. Or, what if you wake up in another simulation? If we are trapped inside a reality that keeps looping, then leaving may not even be possible. So, let me get this straight. Some people believe that if you become aware of the simulation, you start breaking free from it. Okay, great. Then explain why I still have to pay taxes. And the near-death experience theory? If dying gets me out of the simulation, I'm going to need to read the terms and conditions first. And finally, would I even want to leave? I mean, I like pizza. What if outside the simulation, pizza doesn't exist? At this point, I'd rather just level up inside the game instead of trying to break it. But here's the real question. If we're in a simulation, is it about to reboot? The simulation reset. Are we heading toward a system reboot? Let's say we're inside a simulation. That raises a terrifying possibility. What if the simulation is about to reset? History is full of mysterious collapses, entire civilizations wiped out overnight. Think about it. The Mayan civilization disappeared with no clear explanation. The Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest collections of knowledge, was burned to the ground. The Dark Ages erased centuries of progress, setting humanity back hundreds of years. What if these weren't just random disasters, but system resets? And here's where it gets even creepier. Throughout history, people have warned of a coming end of the world, the Great Flood, the Mayan 2012 prophecy, the technological singularity. What if these aren't predictions or destruction, but warnings that the simulation is nearing another reboot? Are we heading toward a global game over moment? And if the simulation resets, will we even remember? Or will time simply restart, history rewrite itself, and we'll just keep playing the same game over and over again? Alright, so now we're saying that history itself might be in a loop. Well, that explains why I feel like I've seen everything before. But seriously, we're still arguing about the same things, fighting the same wars, making the same mistakes. It's like humanity is stuck in a bad sequel that just keeps getting rebooted. And if the simulation does reset, will I get a better character build next time? Because I'd like a bit more charisma and way less debt. But here's the real question. If we're heading for a reset, is it possible we're already inside one? And if so, what happens next? The final question, what if this is just the beginning? If we're in a simulation, what happens when we wake up? Because if this reality is fake, then the real question is, what comes next? Let's say we somehow escape the simulation. Will we wake up in a lab? Will we find ourselves in another simulation? Or will we discover that we were the ones running it all along? Because here's the scariest idea of all. What if we are already creating our own simulations right now? Think about it. We build video game worlds that look more real every year. We're developing AI that can think and learn on its own. We're moving towards virtual reality, augmented consciousness, and digital immortality. What if we're the ones creating the next simulation? And one day, the beings inside it will start asking the same questions we are. Maybe this isn't the first simulation. Maybe it's just one of many. And maybe it never truly ends. The more I read about simulation theory, the more it blows my mind. Now, have you ever woken up and something feels slightly off? Well, in this next video, we dive into a chilling and fascinating phenomena that thousands of people are experiencing, feeling like they've slipped into parallel universes with true life stories from people who've actually experienced this. Have you ever opened your eyes in the morning and something just felt off? The room is the same, your phone works, your job still exists, but the vibe is different. The colors, the people, even the air. You didn't wake up in a dream, you woke up somewhere close, but not quite. Maybe it's your memory playing tricks, maybe you're just tired. Or maybe, just maybe, you've slipped sideways into a version of reality that looks like yours but isn't. This is the glitch no one talks about, waking up in the wrong reality. Can you imagine? Well, thousands, possibly millions don't have to imagine, as it's happened to them. Now, that'll be one scary morning. The feeling you can't explain. Let's start with the feeling itself. It doesn't announce itself with flashing lights or eerie music. It's quieter than that. You wake up, everything looks normal. But the moment you move, there's something, a shift. Your bedroom feels off, like someone copied it from memory and got 98% of the details right. Your dog stares at you like you're a stranger. Your phone background is the same, but wasn't it different yesterday? You got dressed, step outside, and even the air feels wrong. The sunlight is duller. The sky is a slightly different shade of blue. You shake it off, probably just sleep inertia, right? But the feeling lingers. You go to work, talk to friends, scroll your feed, but everything's wearing a mask. And it's not just you. Thousands of people online describe the exact same thing. That creeping sense that they've woken up in a world that isn't quite theirs, where everything's just slightly off. Familiar, but uncanny. So, what is this? A glitch? A dream hangover? Or something we were never meant to notice? Yeah, I've had this. Woke up one morning and my kitchen floor was the wrong color. Spent 20 minutes trying to figure out if I was going insane or just hadn't had coffee. But seriously, this wrong reality feeling is surprisingly common. And it's not always dramatic. It's that weird dissonance, like hearing a song you know but the lyrics are slightly different. And sure, sleep inertia is a thing, but thousands of people feeling slightly wrong in the world? That's not just grogginess, that's something else. Let's look at some actual stories. They do get weird. Real stories from the edge. Let's now explore several eerie real-life accounts from people who believe they've slipped, if only briefly, into another timeline. These aren't just strange dreams or déjà vu. These are stories that left people who lived them questioning the very fabric of reality. The Vanishing Childhood Home, July 2023, New Jersey. In July of 2023, Newsweek reported on a woman named Amanda, last name withheld, who shared her unsettling experience on Reddit. After her mother passed away, Amanda visited her childhood neighborhood in northern New Jersey. But when she arrived at the address, she found an entirely different house in its place. Same number, same street, but not the two-story colonial she remembered growing up in. Neighbors insisted the current home had always been there. Photographs she found later online showed the new house going back decades. Amanda was so shaken that she began to suspect she had either misremembered her own childhood or crossed into a version of reality where her original home simply never existed. The Office That Shouldn't Exist, November 2020, Sydney, Australia. A Medium contributor by the name of Elsie Harven detailed an unnerving moment in 2020 during her commute in Sydney. Due to construction, Elsie took a new route through a part of the city she rarely visited. That's when she passed a corporate office labelled Bellridge Solutions, a firm she distinctly remembered working for as an intern during university. Except, when she checked her old resume later that day, there was no mention of Bellridge. She even asked former classmates, who had no memory of her internship there. Stranger still, when Elsie returned to the building just a week later, the signage was gone, and the office space was completely empty. Was it a memory from a previous timeline bleeding into this one, or just a bureaucratic glitch? The wrong flight, right timeline. February 2014, Tokyo to San Francisco. One of the more publicized and bizarre cases came from Reddit and was later covered by Vice. A man calling himself Noah E. recounted boarding a flight in Tokyo bound for San Francisco in February 2014. But upon arrival, nothing felt right. He described the signage in SFO as slightly altered, familiar restaurants in the terminal located in the wrong spots, and even a brand of coffee he swore never existed now being a staple. Things got even stranger when he got home to discover small inconsistencies. His car keys were different. A childhood photograph he clearly remembered had different people in it. A medical checkup revealed nothing wrong neurologically. Noah eventually convinced himself that the turbulence they experienced mid-flight had somehow knocked him into a parallel version of his life. Now these are just 3 stories out of thousands you will find if you go looking. And while anecdotal, they resonate with a common theme, the profound disorientation that arises when one's perceived reality no longer aligns with memory or expectation. Now, these stories might sound unbelievable, but what if belief isn't the point? And maybe what matters is that people felt their worlds shift. Can trauma, memory, or sleep disorders really account for all of it? Or are we just brushing up against something far stranger? Fragments of a multiverse brushing against each other like strangers on a train. Now, have you ever experienced a moment where reality felt just a bit off? If so, share your story in the comments below. The psychology of disorientation. Okay, so let's pump the brakes before we blame alternate dimensions. Because the human brain, it's a mess. Especially right after we wake up. There's a thing called sleep inertia. That groggy fog you feel when your brain hasn't fully rebooted. During that window, your sense of time, space, and logic is, let's just say, running on expired coffee. And then there's memory reconstruction. We don't store memories like files. We rebuild them every time. So, when you wake up and the room feels off, maybe it isn't the room. Maybe it's your brain trying to redraw the blueprint from last night and getting the colors wrong. There's also false awakenings, dreams where you think you've woken up, but you're still dreaming. You could wake up, feel off, and go through your day, and not be awake at all. Add in stress, anxiety, and the fact that time feels like soup lately, and yeah, maybe we just need a nap. But here's the twist. Even after you shake the sleep fog, the feeling sometimes sticks, and that is harder to explain. I mean, sure, the brain's basically a meat jelly trying to run Windows 95. Sleep inertia? I've been there. I once tried to put toothpaste on a fork. But that lingering wrongness, that's not just sleep, that's not just morning confusion. You know when you walk into a room and forget why you're there? Now imagine that, but it's your whole life. And that weird echo of being in the right place, but the wrong version of it. So yeah, brains are glitchy, but what if the system is too? The parallel time hypothesis. Now we take a step off the ledge. Because if the world doesn't feel quite right, maybe you're not imagining it. Maybe you're just not in your original timeline anymore. According to multiverse theory, there could be an infinite number of realities, each one just a hair's different from the next. In one version, your cat is orange. In another, your parents never met. In another, you never watched this video, which would have been a tragedy. Quantum decoherence suggests particles exist in multiple states until they're observed. So, what if you shifted states? You didn't jump timelines in a sci-fi movie sense, you slid just a little. Everything's 99.9% the same, but that 0.1%, that's the bookshelf you don't remember owning. The song that sounds wrong, the friend who suddenly has a different laugh. Some theorists call this timeline drift, the idea that massive world events, experiments, or unknown forces cause small cracks, and occasionally we fall through. You don't die, you didn't dream it, you just moved, and the only sign is that tiny nagging feeling, this isn't how I left it. Multiverse theory always sounds cool until you realize there might be a version of you out there who still uses Bing. Look, I'm not saying you definitely quantum slid into Earth Prime Beta or whatever, but the fact that this could be scientifically plausible, yeah, that messes with your head. And can we talk about that 0.1% off is worse than full-on different? Like, if I woke up and the sky was purple, I'd deal, but if it's just slightly the wronger shade of blue, well, that's nightmare fuel. Stick around because it gets weirder. Is reality being glitched or controlled? Alright, time to ask the uncomfortable question. What if it's not you that changed timelines? What if reality itself is being tweaked? Think about it. Your life feels off, your environment's slightly different, but nobody else notices. Maybe that's because it's not a universal shift. Maybe it's localized. Some theories suggest these glitches aren't accidental. They're resets, like a program patching itself mid-run. This is where simulation theory sneaks back in. But not the full sci-fi matrix, more like selective maintenance. Reality as a system, you as a user. And every so often things get recompiled. Some people even describe NPC behavior. Friends acting unusually blank, or strangers repeating the same phrase word for word. Others link it to the dead internet theory, where AI-generated content slowly replaces reality. So, maybe you're not shifting timelines. Maybe you're staying still, while reality is rebuilding itself around you. And like a video game loading in a new map, you wake up before the textures are finished. I'm not saying your barista is an NPC, but if they've asked you the exact same, what can I get started for you today, in the exact same tone 56 times this month, maybe ask them if they are buffering. Look, it sounds wild, but the idea of reality glitches isn't that far-fetched when you think about how much of our lives already run on code. And if you've ever felt like the background people were off or the air felt too still, maybe you're not imagining things. Maybe you're just early to the reboot. Cultural and historical parallels. If this sounds like a 21st century anxiety disorder, it's not. Because the idea of waking up in a not quite right world goes way back. In Celtic folklore, there are stories of people wandering into fairy mounds, mystical realms where time passes strangely. Some came back hours later, some decades, some never felt like themselves again. In Norse mythology, shamanic dreamwalkers were said to travel between worlds during sleep. They'd wake with knowledge they couldn't explain, and often a sense they'd brought something back with them. Even ancient Japanese legends speak of mirror worlds, parallel realms just slightly out of sync. And then there are thin places, locations where the veil between realities is said to wear thin. Old churches, forest clearings, mountains. Places where people vanish and return changed, or don't return at all. So maybe what we're calling a glitch today is the same phenomenon people have been whispering about for centuries. We just gave it a new name. Because some stories don't go away, they just evolve with the times. Yeah, apparently humans have been waking up in weird realities since forever. I mean, we had mirror worlds before we had mirrors. And those fairy tales, they weren't just bedtime stories, they were warnings. Don't fall asleep in a ring of mushrooms, or you might wake up somewhere else. Now, we love to think ancient people were just imaginative, but what if they were describing the exact same thing, only without Reddit to post about it? Honestly, I'd take fairy realms over simulation patch any day of the week. At least they had music. So, what do you believe? So now we're left with the big question. If you wake up one day and something feels off, what's really happening? Is it all in your head? Just the brain being weird, glitching out like a Wi-Fi signal during a thunderstorm? Maybe. But what if it's not? What if you really are slipping, just slightly, between timelines? One day your life goes left instead of right, a fork you didn't even see. And suddenly, the people you know aren't quite themselves. The air smells different. Or maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe reality itself is unstable. A simulation running updates while we sleep. Or an ancient mechanism resetting variables we don't understand. You wake up in the same house, but in a world that's one pixel off. And deep down, a part of you knows this is not the place I fell asleep in. So, what do you believe? Is this psychological, dimensional, or deliberate? Drop your thoughts, theories, or weird personal stories in the comments, because I read them all. And who knows, maybe someone else has been in your reality too. Yep, there is something very familiar about this, and it freaks me out. Okay, next up, move on to my second Mandela Effect video, where we explore if reality really is glitching faster than ever, and take a look at the new wave of Mandela effects that have people questioning everything, from disturbing changes in human anatomy, geography, and historical timelines. And could this be a quantum glitch, an AI rewrite, or something even more sinister? Let's find out. What if I told you the Mandela Effect is not a quirky memory glitch from the past, but something that's happening right now at an accelerating pace? In 2025, millions swore that the Statue of Liberty had always stood on Ellis Island. Only it never has. It's on Liberty Island, always has been, apparently. Or how about this? The Ford logo. Did it always have that strange curly loop in the F? Because you might remember it differently. This isn't just nostalgia gone wrong. It's as if something or someone is actively rewriting reality. And the changes? They are picking up speed. So, what's happening to our world? Yeah, the Mandela effects do seem to be happening more frequently, especially since 2022. So, why is that? Well, we'll get to that later in the video. The new wave. The latest Mandela effects that have people freaking out. Forget the Berenstain Bears and Luke, I am your father. That was just the warm-up. A new wave of Mandela effects has arrived, and it's leaving even seasoned skeptics scratching their heads. Let's start with geography. People are freaking out because South America has moved. It's no longer directly beneath North America like they remember. It's now way off to the east. And Japan's shape? It's been described as too curvy or angled differently. Hundreds of people claim it looks wrong, like the entire Pacific shifted while no one was watching. Then there's human anatomy. Do you remember where your heart is? Most people would point to the left side of their chest, but now it's centered. Medical diagrams claim it's always been that way. Oh, and about your ribs. Did you know you now have floating ribs? A whole new category. They just showed up. Now let's talk logos. The Ford logo has a bizarre little squiggle in the F that many people say definitely wasn't there before. And get this, Fruit of the Loom still doesn't have a cornucopia. People are adamant it used to. Febreze has one E. Skechers lost its T. Oreo double stuff, it's spelled with one F. And then it gets weirder. Some people are noticing language changes. Phrases in books, idioms, even dictionary definitions. Words don't mean what they used to. And in pop culture, movie lines are being rewritten. People remember C-3PO being all gold, obviously, because he was all gold. But now, he has one silver leg in A New Hope. Or how about, life is like a box of chocolates? Nope. Now it's life was like a box of chocolates. These aren't obscure facts. They are vivid, foundational memories shared by millions. So, If these aren't just mental hiccups, who or what is behind them? Okay, so either we're all having a synchronized brain malfunction or something seriously weird is happening. I mean, South America moving, floating ribs, a squiggle in the Ford logo that looks like it was doodled by an intern. Come on. And I've had so many arguments about C-3PO's leg. Look, personally, this is a big one for me. I was at the UK opening of Star Wars back in early 1978, and C-3PO was all gold. I even had the original action figure and comics, all gold. And what about the girl in James Bond Moonraker? Look, she always had braces. That was the whole point of pairing her with the Jaws character. But apparently she never had braces. Crazy. And don't get me started on double stuff. 1F? That's not double. It's barely sufficient. Okay, bad jokes aside. And if this was just a memory issue, wouldn't it stop? Why does it feel like it's accelerating? It's like reality is trying to sneak changes past us, but we're starting to catch them. The pattern. Why are Mandela effects increasing? Here's the chilling part. It's not just that Mandela effects exist. It's that they're multiplying. Every few weeks, new ones pop up, trending on TikTok, Reddit, YouTube. The frequency has increased dramatically since 2020, but why? One theory, it's the internet effect. We're more connected than ever, so we're constantly comparing memories and spotting differences. A single Reddit thread can spark a new Mandela effect overnight, but that doesn't explain everything. Others believe we're experiencing a memory leak, a bleed through between timelines. Imagine parallel realities rubbing against each other. Occasionally, a memory from timeline A slips into timeline B, and your brain remembers both. It's not your mind glitching, it's the multiverse peeking through. Then there's the idea of residual evidence. These are the crumbs left behind. VHS tapes, old books, product labels that don't match the current timeline. If these effects are just psychological, how do physical artifacts exist? So, what is more likely? Millions of people all misremembering the same details? Or evidence of a deeper, more disturbing shift in the very fabric of reality? So, either our brains are group project level lazy and just copying each other's errors, or timelines are leaking like a broken faucet. I don't know about you, but if we're living in a sci-fi crossover event, at least I'd like to see some cool powers, time jumping, super memory. But honestly, when you start noticing the pattern, it stops feeling random. Is it really a coincidence that more people are reporting this now when we're more digitally plugged in than ever before? Or is someone nudging the controls? Beyond psychology, new theories that explain the Mandela effect. For years, skeptics chalked up the Mandela effect to false memory, groupthink, and brain glitches. But now, new theories are emerging. And they're not just psychological, they are existential. The timeline editing hypothesis suggests something or someone is deliberately tweaking reality. Not erasing history, but editing it, like a cosmic Control-Z. Could it be future humans, a secret organization, or worse, an experiment testing how much change we'll tolerate before we notice? Then there's the AI influence theory. As AI increasingly manages data, curates content, and even corrects information online, could it be rewriting history in real time? If an AI re-indexes search results or alters archived text and no one notices, did the past just change? Now let's talk quantum consciousness. Some physicists propose that human consciousness is deeply entangled with quantum processes. As collective awareness evolves, we may be tuning into alternate timelines more frequently, like adjusting a radio dial and catching static from another frequency. And then there's CERN 2. In 2022, the Large Hadron Collider was fired up again at record power levels. Since then, reports of Mandela effects have skyrocketed. Is it coincidence? Or did smashing particles tear a tiny hole in reality? All of these theories point to one terrifying possibility. Reality isn't fixed, it's fluid, and something might be stirring the waters. Okay, so either we've entered a golden age of fan theories, or reality is being edited by a sleep-deprived intern with a god complex. I love the idea that AI is rewriting the past. Like we taught it to spell check and now it's playing God. Classic overachiever move. And don't get me started on CERN. You fire up one giant particle cannon and suddenly Pikachu forgets his tail stripe. Suspicious. But honestly, these new theories aren't just wild, they feel plausible, because at this point, oops, everyone's memory is wrong sounds like the least likely explanation. The Mandela Effect in the digital age. Are we witnessing data manipulation? Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you know you saw a certain quote in your high school textbook. You Google it. You check Wikipedia. You search online archives. Nothing. It doesn't exist anywhere. But you remember it vividly. So, here's the uncomfortable question. If the internet says it never happened, does that make your memory wrong? Or has digital history been rewritten? Welcome to the digital dimension of the Mandela Effect. Today, more than ever, our memories are challenged not by other people, but by algorithms. Google curates results based on what it thinks is relevant. Wikipedia pages can be edited by anyone. AI language models, even the ones you're listening to now, pull from ever-changing datasets. And every day, more of our reality is being stored digitally, not physically, which raises a dangerous possibility. If AI is training on updated, biased or altered data, it might be quietly rewriting the past. Imagine a history book that edits itself, not once but constantly, in real time. And now there's deepfake technology. Entire news broadcasts can be generated, altered or erased. Photos and videos can be manipulated to prove something never happened, or that it always did. What happens when we rely entirely on digital memory, and that memory becomes unreliable? Some theorists believe this isn't just incidental. They say we're in the middle of an AI-driven reformatting of reality. And those strange memories we hold on to, they might be the only remnants of the original version. But if digital history can shift so easily, is there any physical proof that these things used to be different? Okay, so I don't know about you, but I'm starting to think my hard drive is gaslighting me. I remember things very clearly, but the internet tells me they never happened, which means one of two things. A, I'm losing my mind, or B, Google's playing 4D chess with reality. But seriously, it's unsettling. When the cloud holds the past and the cloud is editable, how do we know what's real anymore? Physical proof. Strange residue that reality has shifted. If reality is changing, surely something must have been left behind. Some trace evidence, some glitch, some artifact that slipped through the cracks. Turns out, there might be. Welcome to the Mandela Effect residue. The strange bits of reality that don't match the current version of history. Let's start with unchanged physical objects. People have reported finding old VHS tapes, books, and packaging that show what we'd now call the wrong version of reality. Berenstein Bears with an E, Fruit of the Loom logos with a cornucopia, a Febreze bottle with 2 E's. Are these counterfeit, misprints, or are they leftovers from another timeline? Then there's historical mismatches. Newspapers archived on microfilm that reference quotes or events that supposedly never happened. Home videos capturing things wrong by today's standards. Even government documents that conflict with what we're told is official history. One Reddit user even claimed they found a 1994 road atlas that showed South America directly beneath North America, where many people swear it used to be, rather than shifted far to the east. These anomalies are known as reality anchors, small tangible pieces that don't align with the new version of events. And then there are official record glitches, government archives that contain inconsistencies, dates that don't match, historical timelines that seem off by just enough to feel wrong. Of course, skeptics say these are simple errors, but believers argue they are proof that the past isn't gone, it's evolving. And sometimes it forgets to clean up after itself. But if reality is being altered, what if it isn't accidental? What if someone or something is testing how much we'll notice? Okay, let's just say it. Somewhere out there is a rogue Berenstein Bears VHS tape holding the key to the multiverse, and it's probably sitting in somebody's dusty attic. I mean, if I find a cereal box that says Fruit Loops with a UI instead of a double O, I might just open a portal with it. But seriously, physical proof is where things get interesting, because a memory can be dismissed, but a printed object, a government file, those are harder to explain away. Unless, of course, time travelers are librarians scrubbing the archives. Are Mandela effects an experiment in mass perception? Up until now, we've treated Mandela effects like side effects, unintended consequences, maybe from quantum shifts, AI glitches, or memory failures. But what if they are not accidental? What if they are engineered? Some researchers, and let's be honest, more than a few conspiracy theorists, believe we're living through an experiment in mass perception. Let's talk history for a second. The CIA's MKUltra program tried to control minds using drugs and psychological conditioning. Operation Mockingbird used media to manipulate narratives and public opinion. None of this is speculation, it's documented. So, ask yourself, if you wanted to test how easy it is to rewrite reality, wouldn't the Mandela effect be the perfect vehicle? Start small. Change a cereal box, a logo, a movie quote, and watch how people react. Then go bigger. Start altering cultural touchstones. Test the elasticity of memory. How far can you stretch perception before it snaps? And here's where social media enters the chat. Platforms like TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter are algorithmic echo chambers. An idea gains traction, real or fake, and suddenly millions of people believe it. What if some of these viral Mandela effects were planted, not by accident, but to observe the ripple, to collect data, to test how collective memory works in the age of constant connection? Some even speculate that AI itself is the observer, analyzing our reactions, fine-tuning its next test. Because if you can convince a society that their memory is flawed, you can convince them of anything. And if that's the case, what else has already been changed without us ever realizing? Okay, so let me get this straight. First we had CIA mind experiments. Now we've got viral TikToks about Pikachu's tail. And somehow those two things might actually be connected. Yeah, this is the timeline we chose, I guess. But really, if we're running a perception test, the Mandela effect would be brilliant. Tiny shifts, huge debates, zero traceability. It's like gaslighting, but make it global. And maybe AI is behind it all. Honestly, if my toaster starts telling me my childhood was a lie, I am out. The ultimate question, have major events already been altered? Let's take a step back from logos and movie quotes. Because if the Mandela effect is real, if reality is shifting, then the changes shouldn't be limited to cereal boxes and cartoon bears. What if major historical events have already been altered? Some people claim to remember entire wars that didn't happen, or timelines where major political figures died, decades earlier than they did here. There are online communities of people who vividly remember different outcomes to events like 9/11, the JFK assassination, or even the Challenger disaster. In one bizarre case, dozens of users reported remembering a US president named Thomas Whitmore, a man who never existed. At first glance, that sounds like a clear mix-up with Bill Pullman's character from Independence Day. But the memories include real policy details, cabinet members, and news reports that shouldn't exist, even in fiction. And then there's the unsettling idea of vanished places and altered geography. Some people remember the country of Ceylon, still existing today. Others say New Zealand used to be northeast of Australia, not southeast. A few even recall visiting cities that no longer appear on any map. Could these be false memories? Sure, but if smaller Mandela effects, like a squiggle in the Ford logo, can exist, why not larger scale edits? If reality is being rewritten, there's no reason to assume it's only cosmetic. So, here's the terrifying possibility. Maybe massive events have already changed. Maybe we just haven't noticed. because in this version of reality, we were never supposed to. And that leads us to the final, most mind-bending question of all. Okay, so now we're talking full-on alternate timelines. Presidents that never existed, countries in the wrong place, historical events we swear we lived through that never apparently happened. And next thing you know, someone's going to say the moon used to be green. Let's hope not. I am emotionally committed to grey. But seriously, this is where things go from weird to what if we're the only ones who remember the old version? And if enough people don't remember it, does that version stop existing? Because now we're not just misplacing memories, we're misplacing history. The final question, are we approaching a reality shift? Here's the question no one wants to ask out loud. What happens when these small changes become big ones? If a logo can change, if human anatomy can shift, if geography and history can be rewritten without warning, then what's next? Some believe we're approaching a tipping point, a large-scale shift in consciousness, time, or reality itself. These small glitches are the preludes to a full reset, a reality rewrite so vast that everything we remember, every truth, every date, every person could be different overnight. Others say we are already in the new version, and we're just feeling the aftershocks. Maybe the Mandela Effect isn't a mystery. Maybe it's a signal, a countdown, a quiet reboot of the simulation before a major update rolls out. And if that's true, then here's the most haunting question of all. If reality can be rewritten, who decides what stays and what disappears? Because one day you might wake up, and everything you thought was true, your childhood, your memories, even you, could be rewritten. Without permission, without explanation, without warning. I never get tired of exploring the Mandela Effect. It's just so fascinating. Okay, next up, everyone's favourite, CERN. Now, what if the world's most powerful scientific machine didn't just discover new particles, but quietly shifted our reality? In this deep dive, we explore the eerie theories surrounding CERN's Large Hadron Collider. From timeline shifts and reality glitches to the wild speculation about portals, parallel dimensions, and simulation backdoors. What if the biggest machine on Earth accidentally rewrote history? No explosions, no warning. Just one day, the cereal box logo looks different. Your favourite movie quote never existed. Since CERN's Large Hadron Collider first powered up, people around the world have reported reality glitches, déjà vu, and strange inconsistencies in the past. Did we collectively forget, or did something much bigger happen? Could smashing particles near the speed of light have caused more than we bargained for? Something subtle, something strange. Did the LHC fracture time itself? Let's dive into the mystery of CERN, portals, and timeline splits. And if this is still the timeline where you clicked this video. Alright, so we're starting light, just a little casual timeline collapse. But seriously, there's something irresistibly spooky about the idea that reality itself might have been nudged sideways by a particle collider. It's like when your browser crashes, but instead of a website going down, it's history. And yes, while the science is solid, it doesn't stop people from connecting the dots with their own memories or glitches. I'm not saying I personally remember Looney Tunes being spelled differently, but I'm also not saying I don't either. Anyway, let's ground this thing before it floats into full tinfoil mode. Here's what CERN is actually doing and why it became the centre of the weirdest theory you've probably ever heard. What is CERN and the Large Hadron Collider? So, what is CERN exactly? Well, CERN is the European Organisation for Nuclear Research. It's based in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's kind of like the Nerd Avengers HQ for particle physics. It was founded in 1954 by 12 countries. Now it has 23 member states, and it's home to the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, the world's most powerful particle accelerator. Imagine a 17-mile-long underground ring where protons are flung at each other at 99.99999% the speed of light. Why? Well, to recreate the conditions just moments after the Big Bang. In 2012, this is where the Higgs boson, sometimes called the God particle, was finally discovered. Big win for science. But with that kind of power, some people started to wonder, what else might the LHC be doing? In the run-up to its launch in 2008, there was public concern. Some of it tongue-in-cheek, but some generally fearful, that the LHC might create black holes, or tear open the fabric of reality. Spoiler, it didn't, but it did create a cultural ripple. Videos went viral, theories exploded, and let's not forget the statue of Shiva the Destroyer that greets visitors outside CERN's headquarters. It's meant to symbolize the cosmic dance of creation and destruction in Hinduism, but to internet sleuths, it added a nice pinch of ominous sci-fi energy. All this, the cutting-edge science, the doomsday memes, the mystical symbolism, created a perfect storm. The idea that it could open portals, split timelines, or, depending on who you ask, swap Berenstain for Berenstein. But before we go full Twilight Zone, let's zoom in on a very specific date, July the 4th, 2012. Because, after that moment, some people say reality started behaving strangely. So yeah, CERN, a place where scientists recreate the Big Bang, and the internet recreates the X-Files. And look, that Shiva statue, absolutely iconic. But if you're trying to convince people you aren't opening portals to alternate dimensions, maybe don't lean into that aesthetic of a cosmic destroyer god at the entrance. It's just a thought. Still, it's easy to see how the vibe took hold. You've got massive machines underground, invisible particles flying around at near light speed, and announcements about discovering new fundamental forces. Add a dash of TikTok, Reddit, and a public that already mistrusts big science. And boom, you've got a recipe for the most polite apocalypse theory ever. No explosions, no monsters. Just you wake up one day and Looney Tunes looks off. Let's take a closer look at the moment people think this all started going sideways. The moment everything changed. Let's rewind to September 10th, 2008, the day the Large Hadron Collider was powered on for the first time. There was excitement, awe, and yes, a lot of memes about tiny black holes eating the planet. But nothing happened, at least not visibly. Then came July the 4th, 2012. CERN made headlines again. This time, they'd done it. Scientists announced the discovery of the Higgs boson, a particle so foundational to our understanding of matter that it was nicknamed, seemingly jokingly, the God particle. But some people, they noticed something off. Not with the collider, not with the scientists, but with reality itself. Shortly after the second major activation, reports of Mandela effects began spiking online. People described things they knew they'd seen or heard differently in the past. TV lines, logos, even major world events. The catch? There was no record, no proof, just memories. Some theorists online began to float an idea. What if the energy released at CERN didn't destroy the world, but nudged it? What if on some imperceptible level, we slipped into a nearly identical but slightly altered version of reality? It wasn't a bang, it was a slide, like waking up in your own bed, but the wallpaper's just a little off. Stories began circulating. People vividly remembered an old building downtown that suddenly wasn't there anymore. A childhood book series that had its name magically changed. A historical event recalled with perfect clarity, but now it apparently never happened. Coincidence? Collective misremembering? Or something else? Now let's be clear. There's no scientific evidence that CERN broke the universe. But the idea that something shifted after these experiments, it caught fire. Because if our sense of reality is already fragile, how would we even know if it had changed? Okay, so you're telling me we might have slipped timelines, but nobody noticed because the cereal aisle looked mostly the same. That's exactly the kind of quiet apocalypse I'm not mentally prepared for. But seriously, this is where things get juicy, because when thousands of people all start remembering things that don't exist, it gets hard to just blame bad memory. And I don't know about you, but I'm still mad about the Monopoly man's missing monocle. I saw it, I remember it. I was emotionally attached to that monocle. Now, sure, correlation isn't causation. The LHC didn't necessarily trigger a cosmic Photoshop session. But the timeline shift theory is compelling precisely because it's so subtle. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Next up, we get into the Mandela Effect and why people are remembering things that apparently never happened. The Mandela Effect connection. So let's talk about the Mandela Effect. It's named after Nelson Mandela, of course, because some people vividly remember him dying in prison during the 1980s. Funeral on TV, public mourning, the whole thing. Problem is, Nelson Mandela was released in 1990 and became president of South Africa in 1994. and passed away in 2013. This isn't just one person misremembering, it's thousands from different backgrounds, all swearing up and down they remember a different version of history. That's where author and researcher Fiona Broome stepped in. She coined the term Mandela Effect to describe these strange shared memory discrepancies, and since then, the list has exploded. Do you remember Dolly, Jaws's girlfriend in Moonraker, with or without braces? Was C-3PO all gold, or did he have one silver leg? Or maybe you've walked into a room and just felt like something was wrong. Not dramatic, just subtly, cosmically off. So what's happening? Well, some scientists chalk it up to false memory. Our brains are incredibly good at filling in the blanks. Add a little groupthink and the power of internet forums and boom, you've got a phenomenon. Others take a very different view. They suggest these aren't errors but echoes, remnants of alternate timelines where things did happen differently, and some of us are just remembering the wrong version. Now, here's where CERN re-enters the story. Some believe that the energy released by the LHC caused a fold or merge or even a split in our collective reality. And what we're experiencing isn't a memory glitch, it's memory leakage. With the Mandela Effect now exploding on platforms like TikTok, Reddit and YouTube, it's clear that millions of people are at least entertaining the idea that something deeper is going on. And if enough people remember something that never existed, does that memory become its own kind of truth? Here's the thing. Now, whether it's memory fail, digital manipulation, or a legitimate wrinkle in the timeline, the Mandela Effect hits something deep. It messes with your sense of certainty, like what else am I remembering wrong? Did I really watch Shazam with Sinbad? Don't answer that one. And the CERN connection. Honestly, it's like giving the internet a giant what-if button. A mysterious lab, invisible particles, a giant machine smashing realities, building blocks. Yeah, we're going to run wild with that one. Coming up next, portals, parallel worlds, and the wildest theories about what CERN might have opened, even if it didn't mean to. Hold on to your brain cells. Portals, parallel worlds, and theories. So, here's where the story leaves the lab and walks straight into the sci-fi section. The Large Hadron Collider doesn't just smash particles, it opens doors. Metaphorically, of course, but some theorists, they wonder if that might not be just a metaphor. CERN has openly researched concepts like extra dimensions, dark matter, and even the formation of microscopic black holes. And while all of this is framed within solid peer-reviewed physics, some have taken it further. The popular theory? That CERN accidentally, or depending on who you ask, intentionally opened a portal. Not a Stargate-style vortex you could jump through in a hoodie, but something stranger, a bleed through between dimensions. Two timelines brushing up against each other, sharing data, memories, maybe even people. The idea isn't without its roots in science fiction and speculative physics. Terms like quantum entanglement, brain theory, and quantum tunneling are often cited, though usually by people who really enjoy using chalkboards. Even respected physicists like Michio Kaku have talked about multiverse theories, suggesting that our universe could just be one of many stacked in higher dimensions. CERN's own scientists have written papers about the possibility of detecting hidden dimensions through high-energy collisions. Add to that the eerie symbolism, like CERN's Shiva statue, often interpreted as the cosmic dancer of creation and destruction, and you've got a mystery tailor-made for modern myth-making. Some articles even reference the infamous CERN ritual video that surfaced in 2016, an obvious hoax, but one that sent the conspiracy forums into overdrive. So, what's really going on? Is the LHC just a scientific marvel we don't fully understand yet? Or is it an accidental key that's temporarily unlocked the back door of the simulation? Well, we don't know, but one thing is for sure. When the world's most powerful machine starts poking around the edges of space-time, people notice. Okay, if CERN did open a portal and the biggest consequence is the Berenstain Bears being spelled differently, I've got to say, that's the politest apocalypse imaginable. But really, this is where science and science fiction start doing the tango. You've got scientists using words like extra dimensions, and the internet hears welcome to Narnia. And I get it. If you show the public a 17-mile-long underground ring that might detect hidden dimensions, someone's going to yell portal. Also, that Shiva statue? Bold branding choice, guys, really. Now still, even if the portal thing sounds out there, the questions it raises are fascinating. Are there other versions of us, other timelines? And if they're brushing up against ours, how would we even know? Unless, of course, the other you is out there, wondering why you remember the Monopoly man with a monocle. Coming up next, what the actual scientists have to say about all of this. What science actually says. All right, deep breath. Let's come back to Earth just for a moment. Now, what does science, actual credentialized, safety vest-wearing science, have to say about all of this? In short, CERN is not opening portals, at least not the kind Reddit's talking about. The official position from CERN is clear. There's no evidence that the particle collisions at the LHC could cause timeline shifts, interdimensional rifts, or reality glitches. They've addressed the claims directly, sometimes with humour, sometimes with stern clarification. As for the Higgs boson discovery in 2012, groundbreaking, yes, but reality rewriting? Not even close. The Higgs simply helps explain how particles gain mass. It's a vital puzzle piece in the standard model of particle physics, not a reset button for the universe. And those mini black holes that show up in the headlines, if they did appear, and there's no confirmation that they ever have, they'd be microscopic and evaporate almost instantly due to Hawking radiation. CERN isn't hiding its work either. All the data from the LHC is published openly and reviewed by physicists around the world. Then there are thousands of researchers watching for anomalies. Not a single peer-reviewed paper has shown evidence of a dimensional tampering. So, if that's the case, why all the conspiracy theories? Part of it comes from misunderstandings of complex science. Add in a sprinkle of fear, a viral tweet or two, and suddenly a Higgs field turns into a timeline blender. But it's also because CERN sounds like magic to most people. It deals in forces and particles we can't see, using machines buried deep underground, operated by people with PhDs and slightly intimidating email signatures. To the public, it feels unknowable. And in that void, imagination thrives. The science is grounded, the safeguards are thorough, and no one's flipping the reality switch. Well, not on purpose, anyway. Look, if CERN had broken reality, I'm just saying, I'd want at least a cape or a glowing scar, something cool to go with the multiverse chaos. But in all seriousness, this section is important because it's easy to get swept up in the idea that scientists are tossing atoms around like glow sticks at a rave. But in reality, they are super cautious, like double-check the toaster's unplugged before leaving work kind of cautious. And the whole CERN made a black hole fear? Yeah. Those would be smaller than atoms and vanish in a fraction of a second. Not exactly Avengers-level threats. Still, I get why people speculate. When the average person hears quantum brain collision in a 17-mile tunnel, it does sound a bit like something that would come with a doomsday countdown. But hey, science and mystery aren't enemies, they're dance partners. Up next, why we love these theories so much in the first place. Why these theories persist. Let's be honest, why do theories like this stick around? Even with scientists reassuring us that no timelines were harmed in the making of the Higgs boson, millions of people still believe something changed. Why? Because sometimes the facts don't feel as real as the mystery. Reality glitches, déjà vu, false memories. They hit on something deep and weird in the human brain. And when things don't add up, we need a story to make sense of the cracks. Enter simulation theory, quantum multiverses, and, of course, CERN. Our minds are pattern-seeking machines. And when we notice inconsistencies, we look for causes. And when those causes involve enormous underground colliders smashing atoms faster than light, well, the plot writes itself. And there's another factor, the internet. Once upon a time, weird thoughts stayed in your head or got discussed over coffee. Now, you post them, and within 5 minutes, a Reddit thread with 30,000 upvotes is telling you you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, you're onto something. Online communities like Our Glitch in the Matrix, TikTok and YouTube have become an echo chamber for the anomaly. You see one Mandela Effect video and suddenly your feed is full of alternate memories, reality glitches and evidence that we slid sideways sometime back in 2012. Psychologists have a name for this, confirmation bias. When we seek out and believe information that supports what we already suspect. It doesn't mean we're gullible, it just means we're human. And let's face it, big machines, quantum forces, cosmic mysteries, they feel otherworldly. Now, for most of us, particle physics is as close to magic as we'll ever get. So, when the strange feelings start creeping in, it makes sense to look toward the Large Hadron Collider and wonder, did they just maybe open a door they can't close? Part of me loves that the internet has basically become a collective therapy session for weird vibes. Like, hey, does anyone else remember a cartoon elephant that never existed? And suddenly 200 people are like, OMG, yes, elephant. It's wild. But this section hits on something real, how we all crave meaning. And when life feels off kilter, like it has for, I don't know, the entire last decade, we want answers. Even if those answers involve parallel dimensions, cosmic particles, smashers, and the occasional monocle missing Monopoly man. Also, let's be honest, it's way more fun to think CERN caused a timeline split than it is to admit we've all just been over-caffeinated since 2020. But hey, if our brains are glitching, at least we're glitching together, right? All right, let's bring it home. What really happened, and what does it all say about us? So, did CERN really change reality? So here we are, 11 miles of mystery, a few billion particles later, and one massive question still floating in the air. Did CERN change reality? Scientifically speaking, no. There's no evidence that the Large Hadron Collider has caused timeline splits, opened portals, or glitched the matrix. Every high-energy collision, every Higgs boson detection, every data point has been analysed, peer-reviewed, and confirmed within the bounds of known physics. But here's the twist. Our experience of reality? That's not made of particles. It's made of perception. And perception is, well, it's messy. It's influenced by stress, suggestion, memory, the media we consume, and increasingly by algorithms that service the most interesting versions of the truth. So, maybe the real shift wasn't in the particles. Maybe it was in us. Since 2012, we've lived through global crises, digital overload, and constant blur between fact and fiction. Is it any wonder that our brains are struggling to feel certain? Some speculate that if a timeline did change, we wouldn't even notice because we'd be in it. We'd remember things just a little differently, with no way to prove it. And maybe that's the real power of this mystery. Not in what CERN did, but in what we've begun to question about our own reality. What if the world isn't glitching, but our trust in it is? So, did CERN change reality? Well, probably not. But it might have helped us realize just how fragile and fascinating our version of reality is. And if this is a timeline where you liked this video and subscribed, well, thank you. If not, well, maybe this is your glitch moment. CERN. Should we be concerned? I don't know, but many people are, despite all of the assurances that everything is fine. Okay, next up, we dive into the black hole Earth theory, a mind-bending idea that the Earth might have been swallowed by a black hole back in 2012, and we didn't even notice. What if the world didn't end in fire, but in silence? No explosions, no alien invasions, just a cosmic fade to black. Because, according to one fringe theory, sometime in the not-so-distant past, Earth was swallowed by a black hole. Not a metaphor, a literal collapse of reality. And what we're living in now? It's not Earth, it's what's left. An echo, a ghost. Some call it a simulation, others say it's something worse. Welcome to the black hole Earth theory, where quantum mechanics, mythology, and cosmic horror collide. So yeah, welcome to that corner of YouTube where physics meets full-blown existential dread. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another guy with a theory about why the sky's broken. But stay with me on this, because this one, it's got math, it's got myths, it's got CERN. And the idea that we might already be inside a black hole, that's not even the weirdest part. Whether you're here for the science, the speculation, or you just enjoy the feeling of your brain quietly unraveling, this is going to be fun, in a I may never sleep soundly again kind of way. The feeling we can't shake. Why everything feels off cosmically. You know that feeling where something's off? Not wrong exactly, just not quite right. The air feels heavier. Time moves weird. Conversations glitch like bad dialogue in a video game. It's subtle but persistent. And some people say it didn't used to be like this. They talk about time speeding up, mornings blending into nights, weeks vanishing, memories that don't quite match up. Like they're living in a high-resolution photo, with the contrast turned slightly too high. But here's the twist. What if it's not just psychological? What if the reason everything feels so strange lately is because it is strange? Some physicists suggest that if a black hole swallowed the Earth, we wouldn't even notice, at least not right away. Why? Because inside the event horizon, time stretches, light bends. Physics starts writing fan fiction. Hawking radiation slowly leaks from the edges. From our perspective, time feels warped, compressed, fragmented, like reality is thinning. In other words, maybe things feel weird because the rules themselves have changed. Not broken, just rewritten. We think of black holes as violent, but what if they're more subtle than that? What if falling into one doesn't feel like crashing into a wall, but like slowly waking up in a world that's just slightly different than the one you remember? Welcome to the theory that says you're not losing your mind. You're just living in what's left of the universe. Alright, so let me get this straight. Time might be broken, physics is improvising, and my dog staring at the wall like he knows something I don't is suddenly relevant. Cool, cool, cool. But seriously, this feeling off thing, you're not alone. There are Reddit threads miles long of people saying the exact same thing. Time feels fake, reality feels thinner, and even dreams are acting weird. And if we take Hawking and some of the other big-brained physicists at their word, we may be inside something that bends reality itself. The black hole Earth theory explained. The day the world was swallowed. Okay, let's say, for the sake of argument, that we did get swallowed by a black hole. Not a sci-fi black hole from a movie, where everything explodes in slow motion while someone cries into a space helmet. No, the real kind, the quiet kind. The kind Stephen Hawking talked about. Here's how it works. When something crosses the event horizon of a black hole, it doesn't explode. It disappears. From the outside, it looks like time slows down. From the inside, time stretches, warps. Physics, gravity, even light, they all start acting like they've had one too many drinks. Now, imagine Earth went in. Theoretically, it could happen without us even noticing at first. The stars would shift, clocks would behave oddly, reality would feel off. And over time, you might start to notice the lag. Not just in your internet, but in reality itself. Some theories suggest that what we're living in now is one of three things. A simulation, a kind of last-ditch backup of the real world. A quantum echo, residual information from the original universe. Or a stretched space-time bubble, suspended inside the event horizon, where the final moments of our existence are playing out in slow, glitched motion. And the kicker? You wouldn't feel the transition. No warning siren, no gravity spike. Just reality continuing. But hollowed out, shifted. Like watching a movie where the picture looks fine, but you just know something's missing in the sound. So let me get this straight. We might already be inside a black hole. I mean, this might explain a lot. Why my plants keep dying, why I can't remember if Febreze has 1E or 2. But on a serious note, this theory isn't pulled entirely from tin foil. Hawking, Kip Thorne, Penrose, and these guys made careers studying what happens after the fall. And, as it turns out, it's not fire and chaos. It's silence, slowness, a weird calm. All right, grab your passport. Next stop, Switzerland. We're heading straight to the place everyone blames for breaking reality. CERN 2012, and the day everything changed. Did we break reality in Switzerland? On the 4th of July 2012, scientists at CERN made history. They announced the discovery of the Higgs boson, the so-called God particle. But to a certain corner of the internet, that's not the day we found a particle. It's the day we lost the universe. Here's the theory. CERN's experiments involving high-energy particle collisions may have created a micro-black hole, or torn open a quantum rift. And while mainstream science says that's impossible, or at least extremely unlikely, conspiracy theorists point to everything that's happened since. Because right around 2012, things got weird. People started noticing the Mandela Effect. Memory glitches, altered logos, famous lines from movies that suddenly didn't exist. It felt like someone hit reset, but the new version wasn't quite the same. Add to that the Mayan calendar hysteria, remember that? The world was supposed to end in 2012. Well, maybe it did. What if we didn't go out with a bang, but slid quietly into a new reality? One theorist described it as timeline drift. CERN didn't destroy the world, it shifted it. Just enough to notice the seams. Enough that old memories don't quite match the current version. Like a software patch, but for existence. And here's the kicker. CERN plans more powerful experiments. If you think 2012 was weird, well, buckle up. Yeah, CERN. Big collider, bigger theories. To be fair, most physicists say we're definitely not in danger. But then again, they also said a micro black hole would evaporate instantly. But let's be honest, 2012 did feel like a turning point. And whether it was the Mayans, Mandela, or Miley Cyrus, something definitely shifted. And the Mandela Effect? Either we're all collectively bad at remembering movie quotes, or something big happened and reality didn't come with a user manual. Okay, next up, we're getting weird. Quantum weird. Quantum entanglement, glitches, and the illusion of continuity. Are we just remembering the wrong universe? Alright, time to dive headfirst into the quantum soup. You've probably heard of quantum entanglement, the idea that two particles can be connected across vast distances, instantly reflecting changes in each other. Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. Now, imagine that principle applied to you, your memories, your reality. Could it be possible that we're not just experiencing random glitches, but quantum-level crossovers from alternate versions of ourselves? Here's the theory. The universe didn't just reset when we entered a black hole, it fractured. And what we're living in now isn't one clean, continuous timeline. It's more like a stitched-together patchwork quilt of near-identical realities. And sometimes the seams show. That's when you notice the Mandela Effect. The logo that changed. The actor who definitely died years ago, but didn't. That weird déjà vu that feels more like déjà truth. Some physicists believe that reality only locks in what it's observed. Until then, everything exists in superposition, multiple states at once. So, maybe our memories come from versions of events that were almost but not quite chosen. And maybe some of us are remembering the wrong ones. It's not that reality changed, it's that we're not where we started. Even scarier, this doesn't require a full reboot. It might just be how the system runs. A simulation, sure, but one full of overlapping renderings, AI-generated noise, and quantum leftovers. So, if you've ever felt like you woke up in a world where things are almost right but not quite, that might be because you did. This is the part where things stop feeling like a theory and start feeling weirdly personal. Because honestly, who hasn't had that moment of, wait, didn't that logo used to have more blue in it? Or the feeling that your memory is absolutely right and reality just didn't get the memo. This is where science and the strange start shaking hands. Entanglement, superposition, glitches, sounds like sci-fi, but it's also what's in your physics textbook. And if you're remembering a slightly different world, well, maybe that's because you're slightly not in it anymore. All right, let's take this weirdness back in time, way back, because as it turns out, the ancients may have seen this coming. Ancient myths, new fears. The cosmic reset isn't a new idea. You'd think the idea of the universe breaking would be a modern concept. Something born out of particle physics, AI models, and too much time on Reddit. But it's not. Ancient cultures have been telling us for centuries, maybe millennia, that reality doesn't just exist, it resets. Take the Norse myth of Ragnarok. The gods fight, the world burns, and everything dies in fire and ice. But after the end, a new world rises. Quiet, changed, the cycle begins again. Or the Hindu concept of yugas, cosmic time periods that rise and fall in an endless loop. Our current era? The Kali Yuga, a dark age of confusion, decay, and yes, false perception. Even Gnostic writings describe our world as a false construct, a corrupted version of reality created by a flawed being, a system built to deceive, one that hides the truth behind a veil. Sound familiar? Across continents and centuries, these stories echo a common theme, that this world isn't the first or the real or the only one. And when it ends, it doesn't vanish, it just shifts. The old myths weren't predicting fire and brimstone. They were warning us about something subtler, a quiet collapse, a cosmic reboot masked as continuity. And now, in a time of digital overlays, simulation theories, and black hole speculation, maybe we're not inventing new fears. Maybe we're just remembering old ones. Ones humanity has whispered about since we first looked up at the sky and thought, something's not right. Okay, so ancient myths, but make it terrifyingly relevant. I mean, the Norse basically told us this thousands of years ago. Ragnarok isn't just an apocalypse, it's a soft reset. And the Gnostics, they said we're living in a world built by a false god, which honestly explains quite a lot about email, spam, reality TV, and why avocados go bad in half a second. But seriously, there's something wild about the idea that every culture had a version of this, that the world ends, but also keeps going in a slightly stranger way. It kind of makes you wonder, did they know something we don't? Or are we just now catching up to what they always knew? Either way, the reboot might already be live. Next up, we're pulling back the veil and asking the big one. Are we in a simulation or something worse? If this isn't reality, then what is? So here's the question no one wants to answer. If this reality isn't real, what exactly is it? Because once you accept the possibility that Earth slipped into a black hole, either in 2012 or at some other point, you're left with a terrifying prospect. We didn't die, we didn't escape, we're just watching the final scene on a loop. Some say this is a simulation, but not the fun we're all in a matrix kind. This is the dark simulation theory, the one where reality is on autopilot, where the original creators are gone and the program is still running badly. In tech terms, it's like leaving your PC on sleep mode for a decade. Everything's laggy, out of sync. And the background processes? Still chugging along, even if nobody's watching. Nick Bostrom popularized the idea that advanced civilizations might simulate entire universes. Lex Friedman's talked about simulations within simulations. But here's the scarier twist. What if we're not inside a purposeful simulation, but a memory leak, a data echo, a slow-motion playback of Earth's final moments, stretched by the physics of the black hole we fell into, like a screensaver running after the main OS has already crashed. It's not evil, it's not good, it's just decaying. And we're still here, living in the fading light of a world that no longer exists. So when reality feels thin, when people act like NPCs, when the sky looks a little too static, you might not be paranoid. You might just be paying attention. So great news, everybody. We might not be in a simulation. We might be in a really bad simulation. This is the part where simulation theory goes from cool sci-fi idea to quiet existential panic at 2 a.m. And the screensaver universe thing, I can't stop thinking about that. Like, what if we're not the users? What if we just left over code? But I guess if this is the last scene of the movie, at least we've got good lighting, right? Okay, let's bring it all home. Because whether you think we're in a decaying echo, a black hole bubble, or just having a collective cosmic fever dream, there's still one question left to ask. So, what do we do with this? The Dead Star Dilemma. So, let's say, just for a moment, this theory is true. We did get pulled into a black hole. This is a cosmic echo, a simulation, or the final flicker of light before reality fully winks out. Now what? Do we panic? Start hoarding canned beans and building temples to Elon Musk? Or do we start seeing this theory for what it really is? Not a prophecy, not even a warning, but a lens. A way to ask deeper questions. Not, is this real, but how do we live if it's not? Because if reality is unstable, if the fabric of existence is a little threadbare, maybe the most important thing isn't understanding the code. Maybe it's what we do inside it. What if the glitch is the point? What if the echo is a second chance? A moment of stillness where we can see the seams and decide what kind of story we want to tell inside the static. Whether you believe in black hole Earth, timeless collapsing, or none of it at all, this theory invites us to look closer, to pay attention, to question the default settings. So, next time you feel the lag, when the sky flickers, when time jumps, when your memory doesn't line up, don't brush it off. You might just be seeing the truth, flickering at the edge of the frame. Have you felt it? The lag, the echo? Drop your thoughts, glitch stories or theories in the comments. And who knows, maybe someone else has seen your vision of reality too. Black hole Earth theory. Now that is just wild. Okay, next up, my final Mandela Effect video, which looks at the phenomenon from a slightly different angle, where false memories are no longer limited to serial logos or movie quotes. Instead, they're going digital, evolving in real time, powered by AI, viral TikTok trends, algorithmic erasure, and collective memory glitches. Here we explore how AI hallucinations and synthetic nostalgia may be creating false shared memories. You scroll TikTok and hear a song you swear used to exist, but it's gone. You remember a Netflix series everyone talked about in 2021, but now, no trace. You Google it, nothing. Reddit, wiped. Even Wayback's Machine, like, nope. But you remember. And the weirdest of all, thousands of other people do too. The Mandela Effect used to be about movie quotes and serial logos, but now it's digital, it's live. We're not just forgetting history, it feels like we're watching it change in real time. So, what's happening to our memories? It's as if someone is editing the code of reality. So, what's happening? Are our brains glitching out, or is something rewriting the timeline? Because if my previous Mandela videos were about memory, this one is about control. Now, what follows explores speculative theories and internet culture for discussion. It's not intended as fact. The rise of digital-first Mandela effects. In the early days, Mandela effects were mostly tied to the analog world, logos, movies, historical events. But since 2020, something's changed. Now they're showing up exclusively online, born and spread through digital culture. No paper trail, no physical record, just memory. Take the infamous Netflix horror series from 2021 that supposedly starred a girl who wakes up every morning in a different version of reality. Some remember it as Parallax, others as the actress. Hundreds on Reddit claim they binge-watched it. They remember the theme song, the title font, even specific episodes. But it doesn't exist. No IMDb page, no Netflix history, nothing in Google's cache, just people who remember it together. Or how about Nightshade Academy? And Nightshade Academy was never a real game. It was a fictional creation that emerged from a TikTok meme trend. That trend exploded in 2022 with people sharing memories of a gothic RPG they played as teens. Characters, quests, soundtracks, it was all there. Except Nightshade Academy, it never existed. It was fictional. There's no game, not even a mod, just endless TikToks convincing each other it had to be real. Then there's the supposed Rihanna Super Bowl baby announcement in 2022. Thousands remember it vividly, Rihanna revealing her pregnancy mid-performance. Except she didn't perform in 2022's Super Bowl. She performed and announced this in 2023's Super Bowl. These aren't legacy effects resurfacing. These are Mandela effects native to the internet. Ephemeral, viral, and strangely communal. So, what's going on? Some say it's collective storytelling. When a single idea spreads fast enough, memes, trends, TikToks, it starts to feel real. Others suggest it's a symptom of our overstimulated brains misfiring in unison, shared hallucinations triggered by screens. But then there's a darker theory, that we're not remembering fake things. Some speculate these are memories from a version of reality that hypothetically could have been overwritten. Okay, quick reality check. If you've ever been 100% sure that a show existed only to find out it never did, you're not alone. Now, this new wave of Mandela effects, they're not hand-me-downs from your childhood. They're made online, spread through TikTok threads, Discord debates, and meme templates that move faster than your brain can fact-check. Now sure, maybe we're just highly suggestible. The internet is basically a simulation inside a simulation. We want to believe cool stuff is real. But when thousands of people all vividly remember something that never existed, it gets weird. Are we just crowdsourcing our delusions, or did some digital janitor go back and sweep a few files out of the timeline? And sidebar, if Nightshade Academy does ever get made, I want some royalties. Now, let's keep going, because this rabbit hole, it just keeps opening. AI hallucinations are becoming reality glitches. In early 2023, someone asked ChatGPT about an obscure 80s horror film called The Harvesting. Now, this is a fabricated film, a known example of AI hallucination. The AI confidently described it, a haunted farmhouse, a possessed scarecrow, and even the name of the director. It sounded real. A Reddit thread blew up. People remembered watching it. quotes, scenes, the VHS cover. Only problem? It never existed. ChatGPT made the whole movie up. The harvesting never existed. AI language models sometimes generate fictional content when asked about obscure topics. Now, these hallucinations aren't intentional, they're a known limitation of the technology. But then came the images. Mid-Journey users started generating fake 90s toys like Glitch Pals and Grunge Trolls. These toys, Glitch Pals and Grunge Trolls, were entirely AI-generated fakes and never existed. But in the comments, people swore they had these toys as kids. Some even argued over what colors they came in. Total memory meltdown. And this wasn't just nostalgia gone wrong. This phenomenon is sometimes referred to as memory seeding, where media, even unintentionally, inspires collective false memories. Even weirder, once it spreads far enough online, it becomes self-reinforcing. Videos pop up, reviews appear, and boom, you've got an entire false memory webbed across the internet, a reality born from hallucination. Experts call this confabulation, when the brain fills in gaps to make sense of things. But now, these gaps are being pre-filled by machines. Here's the dangerous twist. AI doesn't just answer questions anymore. It writes scripts, makes videos, generates voices, creates images. It's producing culture. And with every new hallucination, it becomes harder to separate fact from fiction. What happens when enough people believe in something that never was? When the internet forgets it was fake in the first place? The Mandela Effect 3 isn't just a memory glitch. It's a side effect of synthetic creativity, a timeline fork not caused by error, but by imagination gone viral. While these AI tools don't intentionally deceive, some worry that their creative outputs are starting to blend with our memories in unexpected ways. Okay, time out. If AI starts hallucinating whole movies and I start remembering them, yeah, that's when I unplug my router and go and live in the woods. But seriously, this isn't just about bad memory. Some speculate AI may be influencing our collective memories, accidentally or otherwise. You used to need trauma or hypnosis to do that. Now, just a convincing mid-journey carousel on X. Twitter, I hate saying X. The real mind-bender is, what if a million people misremember the same thing at the same time? Is it still wrong, or did it just become right? At this rate, AI isn't just predicting our future, it's ghostwriting our past. All I'm saying is, if AI ever tells you there was a 1994 Garfield reboot called Lasagna Wars, don't believe it, unless it slaps. The algorithm is erasing the past. Here's a wild idea. What if the Mandela Effect isn't a glitch in our minds, but a feature of the algorithm? In the last 5 years, we've started relying almost entirely on the internet to remember things for us. But digital memory isn't permanent, it's curated, and it's being rewritten constantly. YouTube thumbnails get changed without warning. Captions are rewritten by AI. TikTok remixes obliterate the original context of trends within days. Sometimes entire videos vanish, either deleted or automatically updated for copyright. Even search results aren't static. Try Googling something obscure, and depending on your region or device, you might get a completely different version of reality. And here's where things get weirder. When enough time passes, those versions, they become the only versions. What the internet shows you becomes what actually happened. This isn't conspiracy, it's automation. Algorithms don't care about truth, they care about engagement. If a slightly different version of a video performs better, guess which one survives? We're seeing the rise of what researchers call algorithmic amnesia, where digital platforms reshape our memories by quietly rewriting content to fit what's trending now. Case in point, Ali and AJ's potential breakup song. The track was known for its teen-friendly angst and iconic line, "It took too long, it took too long, it took too long for you to call back." But the most remembered lyric, "It's my birthday, so what's the deal?" followed by "Stupid Birthday." That version played non-stop on Radio Disney and MTV. But now, go check their channel today. The version up there is the 2020 re-release, with explicit lyrics like "It's my bleep birthday." No edits, no disclaimers, just the new official version. So, maybe it's not that we're remembering incorrectly. Maybe we're remembering the first draft. And the current internet, it's running the rewrite. Okay, this one hits hard, because let's be honest, none of us can actually remember anything without Googling it first. Our brains outsource memory to the cloud, and now the cloud's got creative control. I once tried to find an old viral video I loved. Gautier's Somebody That I Used to Know, but it's gone. There's a new version, same title, totally different tone. Some fans claim the video looks different, but there's no confirmed alternate version. It's like the internet ran a vibe check and decided to rewrite history for better click-throughs. And if you think that's dramatic, try finding unchanged lyrics to a song from 2020. It's like trying to catch smoke. So yeah, this isn't a memory problem, it's a metadata problem. Reality isn't being stored, it's being versioned. Coming up next, what if it's not the internet that's glitching, but our brains? Are we experiencing global memory drift? Let's talk about your brain, or more specifically, what the last few years might have done to it. Since 2020, researchers have reported a dramatic rise in what they call global cognitive dissonance. That's a fancy way of saying a lot of us feel foggy, forgetful, or like we're not quite synced up with reality. And no, it's not just burnout. Some studies suggest that stress and prolonged isolation may influence how we perceive time and stored memories. These effects are still being researched, and this segment reflects theories under discussion, not clinical advice. Translation: we're not just tired, our brains might be subtly rewired. Here's where it gets weird. Starting around 2021, online communities began noticing a sharp spike in new Mandela effects. False memories were spreading faster, details more vivid, the certainty unshakable. So, what if these weren't just psychological side effects? This isn't supported by scientific consensus, but some communities speculate there's a fringe theory emerging online that global trauma, when experienced collectively, acts as a reality tremor, a disturbance in the shared mental timeline. You know how trauma can mess with your individual memory? Imagine that, but scaled up to billions of people. Our entire civilization dealing with time distortion, memory erosion, and possibly bleed through from alternate versions of reality. Wild, right? Let's go deeper. Some believe mass events, wars, pandemics, disasters don't just change the world, they crack the walls between worlds. And in those cracks, little fragments of other timelines might leak through. Maybe that's why your friend remembers a celebrity dying in 2022 and you swear it was 2020. Maybe it wasn't just a slip of the mind, maybe it was a slip of the multiverse. Okay, so we're blaming memory glitches on a global brain fog now. Honestly, makes some sense. Now, if you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why you're there, imagine doing that for an entire year. Seriously though, if we all went through the same disorientating time warp together, it wouldn't be that surprising if our memories got a little scrambled. Add in isolation, stress, doom scrolling, and the fact that Tuesday stopped meaning anything. Yeah, memory drift was inevitable. But here's the twist. What if that drift actually opened something up? Like if reality was a software program, 2020 was the forced update that glitched the UI. And now we're all living in patch notes. Synthetic nostalgia, false memories of the things that never existed. Ever get hit with that wave of nostalgia for something you never actually experienced? Welcome to synthetic nostalgia, the feeling that you missed something that never existed. It started as a meme. A TikTok video called 90s Kids Remember This featured a montage of old commercials and joy jingles. Except none of them were real. They were AI-generated fakes. The snacks, the taglines, even the VHS fuzz on the footage, completely fabricated. But people still remembered them. They commented things like, "I loved this cereal. OMG, I totally had that plushie." Well, no, you didn't. No one did. But the memory felt real anyway. Now, digital artists are now creating entire eras of fake pop culture. Shows that never aired, ads that never ran. Characters that never existed but somehow feel familiar. Case in point, a now viral fictional snack called Choco Comets. A chocolatey 90s treat with neon packaging and a commercial that looks straight out of 1993. Thousands swore they remembered it. Spoiler, Choco Comets? It was made by an AI art generator as a joke. Here's the kicker. Neuroscience backs this up. The brain doesn't always distinguish between authentic memory and highly evocative imagery. If something triggers the right emotion, sound, or aesthetic, your mind might file it under childhood memory, even if it's a total fabrication. This has led to a theory that nostalgia is hackable, that AI or even savvy marketeers can plant emotionally charged memories into our minds. The implications? Wild. Could this be used to manipulate collective sentiment, fabricate fake good old days, convince you that a brand, a product, or an entire decade you never lived through was actually your favorite? If memory can be manufactured, then nostalgia becomes a tool, a retroactive editing system for the human timeline. And like all tools, it can be used for art or for control. Oh, this one messes with your head. We're not just talking about remembering wrong, we're talking about full-blown emotional memory implants. Your brain lights up like, oh yeah, that commercial totally aired during Saturday morning cartoons. Meanwhile, AI is like, ha 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 ha, made you feel something. It's genius and also terrifying. Now, if we can fake nostalgia that easily, what else can be backdated into our past? What's next? Memories of vacations we never took, pets we never had. At this point, the line between real and real feeling is so blurry, I'm just going to trust my fridge magnets. They never lie. The glitch watchers are people creating Mandela effects on purpose. What if the Mandela effect isn't just something we observe? What if someone's making them? Welcome to the world of glitch watchers, a growing network of creators, researchers, and trolls, let's be honest, who are experimenting with false memories on purpose. You've got subreddits like rFakeHistory, Discord servers with entire fabricated timelines, and yes, YouTubers uploading lost VHS tapes of cartoons that never aired, complete with fake commercials, fuzzy analog noise, and even fake Wikipedia entries to back it up. The goal? To test how easy it is to implant memories into the collective consciousness. And it's working. Remember that creepy 1980s public service announcement about the kid who disappears into a glowing doorway? You know, the one with the distorted synth music and a voiceover that said, "Time is the enemy." Well, no, you don't, because that public service announcement never existed, but hundreds of people claim they saw it. Some are calling this new wave of manipulation reality gaming. Others think it's something more dangerous, an attempt to gamify memory itself. ARGs, alternate reality games, like the Mandela Catalogue and The Sun Vanished, deliberately blur the line between fiction, truth, memory, and myth. YouTube horror channels build entire mythologies that feel real, and for some, become real. There's even talk that some creators are embedding subliminal cues, images, sounds, symbols, designed to stick in your brain like an echo. The goal? To generate retroactive memories. Is it art? Is it a social experiment? Or is it a digital age form of mass hypnosis? The scary part, if enough people believe in a false memory, how different is that from it being real? In a world where memory is a playground and you're not sure what you actually remember, truth becomes slippery. And in the hands of the right or wrong people, that's a very powerful tool. Okay, this one gives me goosebumps because on one hand, amazing. It's like performance art meets collective hallucination. But on the other, it's like a reality prank at scale. It's like the internet looked at the Mandela effect and went, yes, we can do better than this. And now we've got Gen Z casually reverse engineering reality from their basements. Love that for us. But honestly, if people can create false memories at scale and they're doing it on purpose, that raises one giant question. How many of our memories were planted? Like, did I really watch that school PSA where the moon winked at me, or is that just an ARG promo? If memory is programmable, then who's got the keyboard? When the internet becomes the timeline. Once upon a time, if you wanted to prove something happened, you'd go to the library. Now, you go to Google, or Reddit, or TikTok, or wherever the algorithm leads you. And that might be the most dangerous Mandela effect of all. Because the internet has become the timeline, it's where we check if our memories are real. It's where we archive our lives. It's how we know what actually happened. And yet, the internet is editable. Wikipedia changes daily. YouTube videos get pulled, re-uploaded, and re-edited. Archive.org deletes data. Google search results shift over time. AI-written articles overwrite facts with fiction. Deepfakes can potentially alter perceptions of past events, raising questions about authenticity. And synthetic voices could change the past. What happens when the thing we trust to verify reality is the very thing reshaping it? Already we've seen historical clips altered by copyright bots, news headlines retroactively edited, entire communities wiped from platforms. If you search for something and it's not there, did it even happen? Even worse, AI is now curating your search experience, meaning your version of the truth might not even match mine. You could be in timeline A while I'm trapped in timeline B, and we'd never know. This is what some researchers are calling consensual reality fracturing, when the public no longer agrees on what's real. Not because of disagreement, but because of customized information streams. Realities become fragmented, personalized, editable like a Google Doc, where someone else always has suggesting mode turned on. So, here's the final question. If your memory is glitchy, and the digital record is malleable, and your search results are curated, then what's real? And more importantly, who gets to decide? Okay, this is the part where I go and stare at a tree for 2 hours to remember what the real world smells like. Because yeah, if we rely on the internet as the authority on reality, but the internet is editable, we're basically building a memory palace made out of jello. And what's really trippy is that none of this is science fiction, it's already happening. Wikipedia says something, it becomes canon. A YouTube clip goes missing, the past changes. Google autocomplete can literally overwrite your curiosity before you've even finished typing. It's like the collective brain of the internet got hacked, and we handed over the password. So, maybe it's time we start backing up our own brains, like in a notebook, with a pen. Remember those? The reality blueprint. Reality isn't slipping, it's under construction. Not by time travelers, not by particle colliders or wormholes or multiversal collisions, but by us. With every meme, every AI prompt, every nostalgic remix of a decade we barely lived through. We're not just documenting culture, we're scripting it. The Mandela Effect is no longer about cereal boxes and cartoon quotes. It's about consensual reality and how fragile it really is. Maybe we never needed a glitch in the Matrix. Maybe we just needed a few billion people with smartphones, bad memory, and access to AI tools that can invent the past. The real question isn't whether we're living in the original timeline, it's whether we even care anymore. Because if reality is open source, anyone can rewrite or remix it. So, ask yourself, what version of the timeline are you living in, and what version will you leave behind? Okay, on to our last video in this compilation, the Glitch Watchers. Now, what if glitches in your reality aren't just tech errors, but signals from another dimension? In this deep dive, we explore the chilling idea of glitch watchers, interdimensional entities who don't observe with cameras or satellites, but through reality itself. You're walking down the street, and just for a moment, you feel it. No eyes, no cameras, just presence. The lights flicker. Your phone glitches. Time stutters just for a second. What if that wasn't random? What if someone or something was watching? Not governments, not aliens, but interdimensional observers. Some call them glitch watchers, entities from beyond our reality who only leave traces when something goes wrong. So, what if those little glitches you ignore are signs they're watching you? Alright, yeah, I know this sounds like sci-fi Mad Libs, but come on, we've all felt that weirdness, like your brain hiccups and the universe skips a beat. 1 second you're scrolling your phone, the next you're questioning the fabric of time because Spotify repeated the same song twice after you skipped it. Are we paranoid? Maybe. But is it weirder to think that reality is glitching or that someone is watching to see if we notice? Personally, I'm rooting for the benevolent cosmic interns theory. But if we're living in a giant Truman Show coded by Cthulhu, at least give me better lighting. Stick around because things are about to get a lot stranger. Glitch phenomena, when reality misfires. Let's start where things get weird, but still familiar. You look at the clock, 3:33 again, third time today. Then the light flickers above you. Your phone restarts without warning. You try to text, and it autocorrects your message into nonsense. Not a tech issue, like the wrong version of your sentence showed up. Glitches. They're small, often subtle, and they always come with that uncanny feeling that something's off. Some people experience time loops, hearing a conversation they swear already happened. Others report walking into a room and seeing someone standing there until they blink, and the room is then empty. The thing is, these events don't happen in isolation. They're patterns. From strange GPS errors to TV static, showing images for a split second, then entire hours of memory just gone. Science explains these away as cognitive hiccups, digital bugs or coincidences. But what if that's only part of the story? What if glitches are like dropped pins, markers, clues that something on the other side of our reality just took notice? In video games, when NPCs start walking into a wall, it's a sign of code breaking down. What if that flickering light or that burst of static is our version of a glitch wall. Not a malfunction, but a peek behind the curtain. And every now and then, someone sees too much. You ever get that moment where the world feels just a little fake? A second too perfect or too imperfect? Some people write it off. Others believe these aren't mistakes, they're observations in progress. The world didn't break, it paused to watch you react. Okay, let's just admit it. We've all had at least one of those did the simulation just stutter moments. Now, for me, it's clocks, always with the repeating numbers. 3:33, 11:11. At this point, I'm just waiting for 6:66, which I know is not a thing yet. And sure, your phone glitching might just mean you need a new phone. Or maybe Tim Cook is just bad at hiding evidence of multiversal surveillance. Who knows? But honestly, if reality is the simulation, then we are the NPCs watching other NPCs glitch while pretending we're not glitched ones at all, which is very comforting. Anyway, whether it's spiritual, technological, or just that one fluorescent bulb you keep forgetting to fix, glitches make us pause, and maybe that's the point. The Watcher Theory, beyond aliens, beyond AI. Forget everything you know about aliens in sources or rogue AIs taking over the grid. What if we're being watched by something far stranger, glitch watchers? According to this fringe theory, these aren't physical beings at all. They are interdimensional. Outside of space, outside of time. Think of them as cosmic archivists, or the IT department for the simulation we call reality. They don't arrive like spacecraft do. They manifest as anomalies, a time hiccup, a sequence of impossible coincidences, a cause that shows up after its effect. Some theorists believe glitches, those little stutters in reality, are actually their footprints. Not mistakes, but moments where our reality brushes up against theirs. But here's where things get creepier. People who've experienced these glitches often report physical sensations right before they happen. Like their body knows something is off, cold shivers, sudden dizziness, nausea. That uncanny sense of being watched with no source in sight. It's been described as the observer effect, but not the quantum physics version. This one is much more primal. Like how animals freeze when a predator's nearby. Only in this case, you are the experiment. Quote from one experiencer. I was walking home. Everything looked normal, but wrong. My head throbbed, my skin prickled. Then my watch skipped 2 hours ahead. I swear it. Science calls it coincidence. Skeptics call it delusion. But those who believe, they say, you don't see them, but your body knows when you're not alone. Okay, so we've gone from aliens are watching us to reality itself watching us. Fantastic. Just what my anxiety needed. But seriously, this body as an antenna idea, I've had that moment. Lights flicker, phone screen spazzes out. I blame the power grid. But now I'm wondering, was it the Watcher Wi-Fi dropping in? The weird part is how common this is. Everyone has a story. I felt sick right before something weird happened. We chalk it up to coincidence, but maybe your brain is smarter than your reality. Still, if these entities are real, I hope they're at least taking notes. Because if I'm getting observed mid-snack run in sweatpants, I want some royalties. Okay, let's dig even deeper. Turns out, this Watcher idea is not new at all. Folklore, religion, and eyes from the void. The concept of beings who observe us from beyond the veil isn't New Age internet speculation. It's ancient, embedded in myths, religious texts, and folklore from every corner of the world. Let's start with the Book of Enoch, an ancient Hebrew text not included in the Standard Bible. In it, watchers are angels sent to observe humanity, but they go rogue, descend to earth, and meddle with human affairs. Sound familiar? Fast forward to Lovecraft. His great old ones aren't just monsters, they're cosmic entities who exist beyond comprehension. They don't attack so much as they observe. Just noticing them can drive you insane. And it's not just Western tradition. In indigenous North American stories, there are sky beings who silently watch from above, never intervening, just observing. Some South American tribes speak of spirits that dwell underground, surfacing only to keep an eye on human behavior. Tibetan Buddhists also talk about enlightened beings watching humanity's progress from parallel dimensions, the same ones said to live in the mystical kingdom of Shambhala. Across cultures and eras, one pattern emerges: beings who aren't gods, aren't demons, but exist to observe. They don't help, they don't harm, they simply watch. So, maybe this glitch watcher theory isn't a new idea at all, just an updated version of an ancient archetype. The same watchers, just wearing different masks. Could the glitches be how they slip through? When reality hiccups, is it just a bad line of code, or the moment something brushes against the world and leaves a fingerprint behind? Okay, confession. I thought watchers were just those background characters in Marvel movies, but turns out ancient humans were already into this. I mean, think about it. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia all came up with the same idea. Someone is watching, and they don't blink. Are they protectors, creepers, cosmic interns with clipboards? Or maybe humanity just needs this idea. But even when we're alone, especially when we're alone, something's paying attention. Either way, the consistency is spooky. If I see one more pair of glowing eyes in a cave painting, I'm out. Okay, next up, things start looping, like reality hitting repeat without warning. And that's when things really get weird. Time loops and recurring events. Ever had a moment that felt recycled? You walk into a room and hear someone say something, and your brain whispers, wait, didn't that already happen? But not in a déjà vu sense, more like the exact same scene reloaded. Some people swear they've lived the same hour twice, heard the same radio host make the same joke days apart, got the same text message from the same person on different days, word for word. Glitches? Sure, but what if it's something else? Some theories suggest these are signs of surveillance loops, moments where time buffers, rewinds or stutters so something can watch. Now, not you in general, but your reaction to something unexpected. Like rewinding a scene in a movie just to study facial expressions. Now, take that idea into dreams. People report dreams that repeat, or restart, or feel shared with others. And in those dreams, strange symbols, unknown rooms, beings that just observe. There are plenty of stories of people who, before falling asleep, asked big metaphysical questions about death, purpose, or the nature of reality itself, and then dreamt of being in a blank room, watched by someone behind a mirror. Now, simulation overload theory suggests that sleep is when the system runs updates, when memory syncs, glitches are repaired, and anomalies are reviewed. So, if dreams are more than dreams, what else happens when we're unconscious? Could these watchers be using dream space to interact directly, unfiltered by physical reality? Or worse, could the questions we ask while awake be flagging us for observation? Because sometimes, right after someone wonders aloud, is this all real? That's when the streetlights blink, the song skips, the day repeats. And maybe that's not a coincidence. All right, if I dream of a clipboard-wielding cosmic auditor tonight, I'm blaming this section. But seriously, this idea that reality might rewind itself, that's both cool and mildly horrifying. I mean, I've rewatched movies to catch a reaction. What if something's doing that to us? And don't get me started on dreams. One time I had a dream I was being interviewed by shadow people. They weren't mean, they just took notes, like a Yelp review for my soul. Look, maybe sleep is just sleep. Maybe the loop is just your brain firing weird, but what if it's not? Next up, surveillance that doesn't use satellites, cameras, or microphones, just the universe itself. Surveillance without technology. We're used to surveillance meaning cameras, satellites, and smart speakers that listen too well. But what if none of that is necessary? Some theories suggest that glitch watchers don't need tech because they are the system, or at least part of it. Imagine a reality that's self-aware enough to watch itself, to adapt when you start noticing patterns. Not through bugs, but through breadcrumbs, deliberate glitches that trigger you to look deeper. Flickering lights, synchronized numbers, that feeling when your thoughts are so loud the world responds. Now here's the twist. Some believe the watchers aren't studying us in general, they're studying how we react emotionally to these glitches. Did you freeze in fear? Did you laugh it off? Did you share it online? Because those reactions, they're data. Some fringe theorists go a step further. They claim that high emotion events like grief, anger, or awe are when the most glitches occur. And not because the emotion causes the glitch, but because it attracts observation. It's as if reality pokes when you're already vulnerable, testing how deep you're paying attention. There's even a saying in those circles, the simulation doesn't correct the glitch until you notice it. Which raises a spooky possibility. Maybe reality is not just passively running. Maybe it has protocols. Maybe it knows when you're seeing through the cracks and shifts in response. Not with malice, just interest. Surveillance without tools, feedback loops disguised as random chance. Next time your playlist starts playing a song that matches your exact mood, or you get a weird ping from nowhere, maybe it's not coincidence. Maybe it's contact. Look, I talk to myself in grocery stores all the time. If reality's been listening in this whole time, I deeply apologize for that cereal aisle rant. Look, but in all honesty, this idea is chilling. No spy satellites, no drones, just a world that watches. It's like being inside a video game that's updating itself based on your vibe. And the theory that glitches only get patched once you notice them, that one stuck with me. It's like playing peekaboo with the Matrix. Also, if these watchers are out there collecting emotion data, I hope they enjoy my stress-induced snack runs at 3 a.m. existential crisis coming up. Can real science back up any of this? Or are we just glitching our way into philosophy class? Real science meets the fringe. All right, let's take a deep breath and bring in the grown-ups, science. Because for all this talk of interdimensional watchers and simulation glitches, there are actual scientific phenomena that echo these strange experiences. Not proof, but weirdly aligned. Now let's start with the observer effect in quantum physics. At a quantum level, particles behave differently when they're being observed, literally. Electrons shift from acting like waves to acting like particles the moment we watch them. It's not just spooky, it's foundational physics. Now, zoom out. Could our macro reality behave the same way? Do things shift when someone or something observes? Then there's simulation theory. It's not just science fiction anymore. Serious thinkers like Nick Bostrom suggest that if civilizations become advanced enough, running ancestor simulations like highly detailed versions of our history could be inevitable. And if they're inevitable, odds are we're in one now. Now, combine the two ideas. If we're in a simulation and observing something changes its outcome, then anomalies, glitches, might be the system adapting to our awareness, a sort of debugging process triggered by curiosity. Now, some researchers even suggest consciousness itself might be the wildcard, that our perception isn't just passive but active, altering reality on the fly. In other words, the more you question reality, the more reality bends. It's not hard science, but it is a legitimate philosophical rabbit hole. So, maybe the glitch watchers aren't aliens or spirits. Maybe they're the echoes of the system watching itself. A recursive loop of observation where asking, am I being watched, becomes the very thing that trips the sensor. Because in a reality this complex, maybe curiosity is the glitch. Okay, I'll admit it. The observer effect kind of breaks my brain. Like particles act differently just because they know we're watching. Are we sure electrons aren't just dramatic? And simulation theory, man, that is the black hole of dinner party conversations. Pass the salt. Oh, and what if we're digital ghosts in a post-human video game? But jokes aside, this is where things get really juicy, not because it proves anything, but because real science doesn't totally slam the door shut. If watching changes reality, and reality might be code, then maybe glitches aren't flaws, maybe they're feedback. Now, let's head into our final section, because if someone's watching, then the only real question is why. What if they're still watching? So, let's say, for argument's sake, the glitch watchers are real. They don't need chips, they don't need cameras, maybe they don't even need bodies. They just observe, silently, constantly, from outside whatever this is. And maybe the glitches we see, repeating numbers, timeline loops, that weird static burst on your phone when nothing's open, are not just tech bugs. They're pings, beacons, signals. Now, here's the kicker. Some people report memory desyncs. They'll swear they had a conversation that no one else remembers, or they'll forget part of the day with no explanation. It's like reality skipped or was rewritten. Fringe theorists call this rollback, a kind of soft reset triggered by the watchers, like something didn't go quite as expected, so the system had to try again. But the traces still linger. Sound familiar? It's here we can briefly nod to the Mandela Effect, those mass memory inconsistencies that people swear are signs of jumped timelines. We won't dwell, but this is part of the same pattern, reality almost lining up, but not quite. So, what do the watchers want? Well, some believe they're passive, just studying us, the way we'd study ants in a digital ant farm. Others think they're curators of reality, adjusting the simulation to keep it stable, quietly course-correcting when we get too close to uncomfortable truths. And then there's the unsettling idea that they're waiting. Not for us to discover them, but to evolve, to become self-aware enough to be worth contacting or confronting. Because maybe we're not just in a simulation, maybe we're the experiment. And if you felt something watching lately, maybe it's not paranoia. Maybe you're right. Okay, that wraps up this compilation video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now let me know in the comments below of your experiences and tell me what kind of videos you'd like to see next. And please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. If this channel is going to survive, we need your help. Thank you. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, firstly, and contrary to some people's belief, I am 100% human. I am not AI. If I was AI, I would definitely make myself look younger, more attractive, better hair, teeth, etc. Okay, so you're thinking, yes, but that's exactly what AI would say. Well, look, I guess if you're in that camp, there really isn't much I can say to convince you. I do use AI images in the videos, but I've been trying to use less and less recently, and more of me on camera. And the reason you see the AI content banner at the start of the video and each time you return after an ad is that I specify that to YouTube when I upload the videos. Almost all of the big channels in this niche use AI, but they all have paid promotions on their channel as well. So they have to select that they contain paid promotions when they upload to YouTube, which is why you only ever see that particular banner popping up, as it takes precedence over the AI banner. I'm a very small channel, and I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you who subscribe, truly, thank you. I started doing this type of content 6 months ago, back in December 2024, because I love the stories so much. And I don't do this full time. I've got a regular job, 9 to 5, just like most people do. So I've got very limited time and extremely limited resources. I do it all myself, from idea and script creation to filming, video editing, sound editing, motion graphics, sound and effects, as well as creating the AI images that I use. And as some of you already know, I upload every Friday at 10 p.m. in the UK and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. And I appreciate every single view, every comment, every like. Thank you. And if you want to know why I always wear the orange shirt, well, if I ever get to 100,000 subscribers, then I will let you know then. Okay, friends, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, as always, stay curious.